the hottest new autumny game, Thorns of a Moonless Night, lets players take on the role of Clare, a brilliant commoner girl, and pursue a love story with three handsome young men. The game's most iconic ad shows the main villainess, Penelope, holding Clare hostage as the three male leads confront her. On a massive screen in the middle of the city, the three handsome bachelors were on full display. Their slogan echoed, "Don't be afraid. This time we'll be the ones to protect you." A group of fangirls waiting for the crosswalk lights stared up at the screen, their eyes sparkling. They were so busy drooling over the fictional pretty boys that they didn't even notice the light turn green. Just then, a cool, aloof voice came from behind them. "Excuse me, could you move?" The girls snapped out of it and shuffled aside, embarrassed. As the cool beauty walked past, one of the fans noticed her earrings. "Aren't those the limited edition earrings from Thorns of a Moonless Night? The ones you can only get if you're the #1 player on the server?" The time was 6:38 p.m. on June 31st. A light rain began to fall as the woman walked alone down the street. Her phone buzzed. It was a survey from the game developers, sent exclusively to the top-ranked player, promising a special gift upon completion. Question: Is this your first Otome game? Question: How did you find out about our game? A friend recommended it. Question: Who is your favorite character in the game and why? Just then, a notification popped up. A message from her mother. She tapped it and saw a photo of her little brother's birthday party. The message mentioned all their relatives had come over to celebrate. Staring at the happy family in the photo, she thought for a moment before typing her reply to the survey. "If I have to choose, I guess the Villainess." "Why is that?" As she stepped onto the crosswalk, the next message from her mother made her freeze in place. She quietly typed her final answer. "Because I feel like we're a lot alike." Suddenly, the blaring horn of a speeding bus filled the air. She realized what was happening too late. With a sickening thud, she was thrown to the ground. On her shattered phone screen, her mother's last message glowed. "Don't bother coming home today, you'll just ruin everyone's fun." One last question appeared on the phone. "What do you hope to gain from the game?" With her last breath of consciousness, she whispered, "To be loved." A system voice followed. "Data input complete. Data analysis complete. Generating compatible character. Welcome to Thorns of a Moonless Night." Miss? A voice called out. She groggily opened her eyes, her head throbbing. She was in a completely unfamiliar room. "Lady Penelope, thank goodness you're finally awake." A girl dressed as a maid pulled back her bed curtains, her face full of relief. Apparently the headache was because Penelope had been playing in a freezing lake in the middle of winter. The maid clucked her tongue. "I've worked here for 30 years, and I've never heard of such a thing." She gently scolded her, reminding her to remember her status and not to do anything so improper again. The girl in the bed was completely lost. She had no idea what status she was supposed to have. The maid prompted her. "You are Penelope Eckhart, the young lady of the most noble house in the entire kingdom outside of the royal family. From the day she was born, everyone had high hopes for her. She was supposed to inherit the title of Divine Maiden and bring honor to her family. But that dream shattered the day the title was given to someone else. Bitterness, jealousy, and resentment twisted her once pure heart. That was the beginning of the game's story. And the beautiful, if childish face looking back at her was without a doubt the game's most despised villainess, Penelope Eckhart. You've got to be kidding me, she thought, feeling incredibly wronged. If she had to be reborn in a game, why couldn't she be the heroine? Do the damn devs hate their biggest spenders this much? While she was lost in thought, a few maids came in and started getting her ready, informing her that today was a rare family dinner and she had to be on her best behavior. After a lot of fussing, a maid pulled back the curtain in front of a full-length mirror. Just moments ago, she'd been grumbling about what a 5-year-old could possibly do with her looks. But seeing her reflection, she had to admit, maybe there was something there. The maid's eyes were sparkling. One of them sighed, "Helen, the head maid, is truly the best. She's made the young lady look absolutely perfect." But Helen shook her head. "No, it's not enough. Her hair is too poofy. There are too many bows, and these pearls should be aquamarines. Otherwise, it won't perfectly complement the young lady's beauty." She immediately sent the other maids scurrying off to find the right accessories. Penelope sighed internally. It's just lunch. Why is everyone making such a big deal out of it? Just then, her stomach let out a loud grumble. She threw herself at the head maid, wrapping her arms around her. She was just so hungry. She hugged Helen's arm and put on her best puppy dog eyes. To her surprise, the head maid whispered, "So cute," and promptly fainted, not waking up for a full 30 minutes. Turns out the head maid had a major soft spot for cute little kids. When she finally came to and saw a prim and proper Penelope, she even started crying. "My lady is all grown up." Well, at least it seemed like Helen genuinely cared for Penelope. But the person Penelope really needed to watch out for was the game's tyrannical duke, Derek Eckhart. In the game, her own brother was responsible for at least half of the misery that led to Penelope's death, perhaps as a way to show his righteousness. As siblings, they couldn't avoid each other forever, but Derek spent most of his time training with the knights. If she was careful and didn't provoke him. Lost in thought, little Penelope suddenly bumped into someone. Rubbing her head, she looked up and saw him. Her own brother Derek. Great, just great. Little Penelope told herself to stay calm. Right now, Derek was only 10 or so. No matter how ruthless he became in the future, that was still years away. All she had to do was be careful. With that in mind, she plastered a bright smile on her face and chirped, "Greetings, esteemed brother." Derek, however, didn't seem to recognize her at all. He picked her up by the collar like a kitten and asked quizzically, "What is this thing?" Thing? He called her a thing? Penelope couldn't stomach that. Her eyes turned red as she flailed her arms and legs, trying to fight him, but she couldn't reach a thing. Just then, a maid rushed over to intervene. "Young master, have you forgotten after being away for 4 years? This is Lady Penelope, your younger sister." Derek's eyes widened in recognition. Oh, right. The ugly one. His last memory of Penelope was from when she was a wrinkly newborn. Penelope was fuming. "You rude little brat!" she screamed in her head. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'm the one who pays the devs' salaries and the devs made you. Do the math, that makes me your grandpa." She fantasized about giving her new brother a good smack. Suddenly, Derek pinched her cheek hard, and little Penelope's eyes filled with tears. "Young master, what are you doing?" the maid cried out. Derek narrowed his eyes. "I have a feeling she's cursing me out in her head." The maid quickly scooped Penelope into her arms. "The young lady is on her way to breakfast. Would the young master like to join her?" Hiding in the maid's arms, Penelope shot him a glare. "You little jerk! Next time, I'm not buying you that premium gem pack." Derek replied that he had just returned and needed to greet their mother first. The word mother shocked Penelope. The Duchess Eckhart? She was never even mentioned in the game. If she could get her mother on her side, her chances of surviving Derek would be much, much higher. She couldn't miss this opportunity. "Wait for me!" she shouted after him. "My $100 gem pack. Wait for me, brother Derek." Penelope ran as fast as her little legs could carry her, but the hallway was so long. She suddenly felt how short her legs were. She remembered the in-game Penelope being a tall, stunning beauty. Why were her childhood legs so short? Derek could cover in one step what took her 3. It wasn't fair. He was only 5 or 6 years older than her. Up ahead, her brother called out, "Mother, it's time for breakfast." A stunningly beautiful woman appeared. Penelope gasped. She's a total bombshell, and so grand." Their mother looked at little Penelope and asked, "Why are you so out of breath? Did you run all the way from your room?" Then she swept Penelope up in her arms for a hug and a kiss. Her brother stood by, looking unimpressed. "Mother, you spoil her too much." But their mother just smiled fondly. "Little children are meant to be spoiled, aren't they, my sweet Penelope?" "Mm-hmm." Penelope was completely melting in her mother's embrace. Her mother then teased, "I wish Derek would act this cute with me sometimes." Penelope chimed in, "Yeah, exactly." Derek immediately bristled. "Please don't say such ridiculous things. I am here to escort you to breakfast." Little Penelope savored the warmth of her mother's hug. But another image flashed in her mind, a furious woman screaming at her. "Get out! How dare you still show your face here? If it weren't for you, if only I had never given birth to you. Wake up, time to eat." Her brother gave her a little flick on the forehead. "Huh? What happened?" she mumbled, rubbing her head. Her mother looked at her worriedly, asking if she'd had a nightmare. She had been muttering, "I'm sorry," in her sleep. Penelope said she didn't know. Were those images from her past life? Who was that woman? What kind of person had she been? When she tried to remember more, it was like hitting a wall. Nothing. Her mother asked gently if she was still feeling unwell from her dip in the lake. Penelope reassured her, deciding not to dwell on it for now. The rest of the meal passed cheerfully, with the siblings playfully bickering. After they finished, their mother asked Derek why he'd returned so suddenly. He explained that the God's Miracle Day was next month. Hearing that, Penelope asked what God's Miracle Day was. Her mother explained that it was a festival held by the Temple of Ernest every 5 years, where the future heirs of the great noble families gathered to hear the god's will. Ernest, the name sounded familiar. The Temple of Ernest? Penelope racked her brain. Wait, wasn't that the game's announcement board? She remembered the in-game pop-ups. "Dear players, it's your daddy here. So sorry that the latest update ruined your game experience. Here's some useless junk as compensation. You'd better not complain." An idea sparked in Penelope's mind. If she went to the festival, maybe she could communicate with the game developers and find a way back home. I want to go too, she declared. Her brother suddenly stood up, leaned in close to her, and said in a low voice, I just said that only the future heirs of each family can attend. Are you saying you want to challenge me for the position of heir to the Eckhart family? His hand drifted to the hilt of his sword. Crap. She'd gotten carried away. Penelope quickly pushed his sword back into its sheath and played dumb. What are you talking about, brother? I don't understand. I just want to go out and have some fun. Mom, save me, she pleaded silently. As if on cue, her mother began to cough violently, drawing everyone's attention. A maid rushed over, panicked. Isn't that ginseng tea? The doctor specifically told you not to drink ginseng tea. Penelope had assumed her mother was just faking it to help her, but hearing the maid's words, she realized her mother was truly sick. Why didn't the Duchess ever appear in the game? The question popped into her head again. No, maybe she had. In the game, there was a scene where Penelope grabbed her brother's collar and demanded, Why are you so good to that woman? Have you forgotten what happened to Mom? It's all her fault. Derek had shoved her away, yelling, Enough! Stop blaming others! You were the one who killed Mother! In the original story, Penelope used all her powers to try and heal her terminally ill mother, but nothing worked. As she cried, her mother comforted her. Don't be sad. It's the gods' will, not your fault. She told Penelope that she was a gift from the gods. With those words, her mother passed away. Penelope had screamed, No, Mom, it's all my fault! It's because I'm not the real divine maiden, so my blessings didn't work. Because I'm a fake, Mom died. Losing her divine power had made Penelope powerless to save the person she loved most. The pain never faded, and eventually it twisted into rage directed at others. It was the only way she could keep going. That's why she was so cruel to Clare. Such a sad, pathetic villain. Remembering this, little Penelope's eyes filled with tears. Her mother hugged her tightly, wiping them away, and asking if Derek had scared her. Looking at her kind mother, Penelope thought, This loving woman in front of me doesn't have much time left. She hugged her mother even tighter. Her mother, thinking Penelope was admitting to being scared, then asked, Do you really want to be the heir that badly, Penelope? Penelope answered absent-mindedly, What if I said yes? Her mother paused, then said playfully, Well, then we'd have to hire a lot of tutors for you. If I had my way, I'd want you to grow up far from all this conflict, happy and safe. You could study whatever you're interested in, find a job you love, and marry someone you love and start a family. If being the heir is what will make you happy, then you should fight for it. Whatever you choose, your mother will always support you. She added that surpassing Derek wouldn't be easy, and she'd be cheering for both of them. Suddenly, little Penelope shot up and ran out the door, yelling, No, I don't want that ending! The hands that had so gently stroked her hair belonged to a woman who would be dead in a year. She refused to accept that ending. She ran so fast that the maids couldn't stop her, not until she burst into the training grounds in the courtyard. Her brother Derek was there with a group of knights practicing archery. When she suddenly ran in, an arrow nearly hit her. But Penelope stood her ground, her face filled with a new resolve. This time, she thought, I won't make the same mistakes. Derek realized the intruder was none other than his eccentric little sister. Are you okay? He asked, rushing over. A handsome young man training beside him stared at Penelope's face. Am I seeing things? The young man wondered. The look on that child's face. Can a 5-year-old really look like that? Derek, however, didn't notice anything unusual. He grabbed her head, checking for injuries. When he saw she was fine, he grabbed her arm and lifted her up. This is not a place for you. Go back, he said angrily. Penelope knew she couldn't leave. She had to find a way to contact the developers and save her mother. Throwing her pride to the wind, she put on an innocent smile, held out her little hands towards Derek, and pouted. Brother, carry me! The entire training ground went silent. Derek just stared at her, completely baffled. Penelope herself was cringing so hard she wanted to throw up. This is so embarrassing, she thought. But right now, her cuteness was the only weapon she had. The handsome young man looked on in shock. The Eckhart family. I didn't realize they were the loving siblings type. He had assumed the cold and ruthless Derek would never be swayed by something like this. But he was wrong. Although Derek was trying his best to look annoyed, he was taking deep breaths. He was clearly flustered. Not knowing what Penelope was planning, Derek sighed, picked her up like a sack of potatoes, and deposited her outside the training grounds. It's dangerous in here, don't come in again, he said before turning and walking away. Little Penelope stomped her foot in frustration, but then she thought, at least the current Derek didn't seem to hate her as much as his game counterpart did. That was a good sign. If she could talk to him, she could raise his affection level. He shouldn't underestimate a veteran player like her. The next morning, with a secret plan in mind, little Penelope snuck back into the training grounds. Brother, have some water. Brother, I tried baking cookies. Have one. Brother, be careful when you train. Don't get hurt. I'll worry about you. Little Penelope's sweet voice echoed across the field. Derek was so flustered that he kept messing up, even nearly breaking his sparring partner's arm. He had reached his limit. Just then, the handsome young man suggested, "Just let her watch from the side. It's not like it'll kill you. Swords and magic don't have eyes," Derek retorted. "This is no place for a little girl." The young man smirked. "You're just worried about her, but too stubborn to admit it." Just then, little Penelope ran over, holding another box of mysterious goodies for her brother. At that exact moment, a young apprentice magician, guided by his master, successfully cast his first spell. And as luck would have it, the ball of magic flew right towards Penelope. Everyone gasped. But in a flash, a hand shot out and blocked the spell. With a loud boom, the magic was deflected into a nearby bush, sending dirt flying everywhere. "Penelope Eckhart, I warned you it was dangerous here." Her brother's cold voice cut through the air. Penelope opened her eyes to see a large, bloody gash across his palm. From that day on, a sign hung on the iron gate of the training grounds: "Penelope not allowed." Little Penelope squatted outside the gate, feeling helpless. It wasn't like she'd gone in completely unprepared. She had a defensive spell ready. But she never imagined her brother would jump in front of her to take the hit. Now, forget raising his affection level, she'd be lucky if he didn't hate her. Just then, the gate creaked open, and a young lady walked out. Penelope immediately ran up to her. "Is my brother okay?" The lady reassured her. "It was a light attribute spell, so the damage isn't too severe. Don't worry, it won't affect his daily activities, and he should be fine for the God's Miracle Day. He just probably won't be able to make the trip to the Mirkwood Forest next week." "The Mirkwood Forest?" Penelope asked, curious. The lady explained, "It's a high-risk monster forest that the Eckhart family manages. Every summer, the monsters there become incredibly violent. But it's also the only time a flower called the Tears of Ernest blooms. Magical armor made from it can block one fatal blow for its owner. It's an extremely rare material. If the young master had that, his hand would heal much faster." Before the lady could finish, Penelope had vanished. A short while later, she was in the family library. She remembered it now. The Mirkwood Forest was a dungeon in the game that only max-level players could enter. It was so difficult it had even trended on social media. But if you had a certain item, you could clear it without taking any damage. "Found it!" little Penelope exclaimed. She had found the instructions for making the item in a book. "Derek, just you wait," she thought with a grin. "I'm going to bring you the Tears of Ernest, and you're going to owe me big time." That afternoon, two tearful maids came to the training grounds looking for Penelope. They hadn't seen her since the morning. The young lady who had spoken to Penelope earlier suddenly paled. "I told her about the Tears of Ernest this morning. Don't tell me she went to the Mirkwood Forest?" Derek's face went white. Did Penelope go to get the Tears of Ernest by herself as an apology? Without a second thought, he took off running. By nightfall, Derek was deep in the Mirkwood Forest, frantically searching for Penelope. Suddenly, a monster the size of a small hill, covered in black fur with glowing red eyes, appeared before him. It's a highly aggressive level 6 monster, a wraith lion. If Penelope ran into this thing, he thought, his heart sinking. Just then, he saw a glove pinned under the monster's paw. It was one Penelope always wore. Derek's mind went blank. After a fierce battle, Derek defeated the beast. He picked up his sister's glove, clutching it tightly, overcome with guilt. But just then, he heard Penelope's voice. He raced towards the sound and found her sitting on the ground, covered in dirt and rubbing her head. Seeing her brother, Penelope's face lit up. But he just started yelling at her. "What are you doing here? Do you know how dangerous this place is? I thought you were dead." Penelope just grinned sheepishly. "I'm sorry. But look, I found the flower you wanted. So, can you not be mad at me anymore?" With that, she passed out. Back home, the doctor confirmed Penelope was fine, just exhausted. She would be okay after some rest. Their mother was terrified when Derek told her about the level 6 monster he'd encountered. Everyone said Penelope was incredibly lucky. The truth was, the monster guarding the Tears of Ernest was high level. But you could use a paralysis potion to stun it for 3 seconds. Then use a specific movement pattern to glitch it out. Basically, she had exploited a bug. Penelope was just glad the game world had copied over the bugs too. After sleeping for a whole day and night, Penelope finally woke up to find her brother slumped over her bedside, where he had been watching over her the entire time. It looked like her gamble had paid off. She'd successfully raised his affection level. Remembering how he'd suddenly appeared in the forest and how worried he'd been, she felt a strange warmth. For a moment, it felt like the boy holding her wasn't the cold-blooded Derek from the game, but a real brother who cared for his little sister. Stroking his hair, she thought, as long as Mother doesn't die, the real Penelope won't turn into that monster. Maybe they could have been like normal siblings. She decided she'd stick around a little longer, just until she could give him his real sister back. The god's miracle day finally arrived, and Penelope got her wish. Derek brought her along. Nobles arrived at the chapel district in fancy carriages, while commoners could only watch from the outskirts. Penelope was determined to sneak into the main sanctuary, so she used the classic, "I have to use the bathroom" excuse. But her dutiful guard said the young master had ordered him not to let her out of his sight. Little Penelope's face turned green. "Are you going to follow me into the bathroom too?" she shrieked. The crowd immediately turned on the guard, whispering and shaking their heads. Mortified, the guard had no choice but to let her go. As she rounded a corner, she heard a shout. "You little brat, you got my shoes dirty." Curious, she peeked around and saw a chubby noble yelling at a little commoner girl who had accidentally stepped on his shoe. Other nobles nearby were muttering about why a commoner was even in this area. I didn't mean to," the little girl stammered, apologizing over and over. But the other nobles just egged the man on. The chubby noble raised his hand to strike the girl, but Penelope ran out and shielded her. "I'm so sorry," she said to the nobles. "This is a distant relative of mine who has been living abroad. If she offended you in any way, I apologize on behalf of the Eckhart family. If my apology isn't enough, my father can pay you a personal visit in a few days." Hearing the name Eckhart, the man paled. The ruthless Duke Eckhart? No, that's not necessary," he stammered. He and the other nobles scattered in an instant. The little girl thanked Penelope profusely, asking for her name. Her hand was bleeding and she accidentally stained Penelope's dress. But Penelope didn't mind and even helped her bandage the wound. After that, Penelope remembered her urgent mission and quickly said goodbye. Not long after Penelope left, someone came looking for the little girl. Her name was Clare. It was her mother who scolded her, saying this wasn't a place for people of their class, and quickly pulled her away. "Mom," Clare said, looking back, "I think I just saw an angel." Walking away, Penelope had no idea what had just happened. She just felt like that girl looked familiar. Maybe she was some NPC. After a long journey, Penelope found herself outside the main sanctuary, trying to climb in through a window. Her short legs scrambled for a foothold when she accidentally stepped on something soft. A man's voice said, "Excuse me, miss," and Penelope was so startled she fell. The man caught her easily, smiling. "I thought a little kitten had fallen." Penelope looked up and her jaw dropped. It was Callisto Devonshire, the Empire's one and only crown prince. He was the game's poster boy, a certified genius of lightning magic. He was adored by all. But secretly, he was the leader of an underground revolutionary group, working with the heroine to weaken the nobility and fight for commoners' rights. Over the course of the game, he falls for the strong-willed and clever heroine. A child version of the prince had never even appeared in the game. What was he doing here? Just then she heard guards approaching. "Oh crap," she thought. "My apologies. I have urgent business to attend to. Please forgive my rudeness, Your Highness," she said quickly. The prince took her hand and brought it to his lips for a gentle kiss. "I'm sure this won't be our last meeting," he said with a smile. Penelope's face turned beet red. Who could handle that? She took off running before the guards could see her, but her heart was still pounding. No wonder he's the center character. He's so smooth. And no wonder the original Penelope fell for him. She was hiding in a bush, her thoughts racing, when a patrol guard found her and yanked her out. "This is a restricted area. What are you doing here?" he barked. Before Penelope could explain, a beautiful, noble, and holy woman appeared before them. The guard immediately bowed. "Holy Maiden!" The Holy Maiden said Penelope was her guest and asked him not to trouble her. The guard, completely smitten, agreed at once and promised to stand guard outside for them. Penelope followed the Holy Maiden into the main sanctuary, marveling at the hidden room. "So is she one of the game developers?" Just as she was about to ask, the Holy Maiden threw herself to the ground, hugged Penelope's legs, and started wailing. "Top ranker, please forgive us. We didn't mean for this to happen." Penelope was completely bewildered. What was this act? "Get up first," she said. "Let's talk this out." "I won't get up," the Holy Maiden sobbed. "Let go of me. No, not until you forgive me." After a bit of struggling, Penelope lost her patience. She balled her fists and gave the wailing woman a few good smacks. After that, the Holy Maiden, sporting a few bruises, finally admitted that she was, in fact, one of the game developers. "A female developer?" Penelope asked, looking at her flawless beauty. "With that beauty and grace. Are you the lead artist, Yuxi?" The Holy Maiden shook her head. "No, I'm the planner, Jean, and I'm a guy." He then preened. "Don't I look great in this form?" "I begged Yuxi to draw it for me. Big-chested beauties are the best, right?" Before he could finish, Penelope had him in a chokehold. You damn Dev! I'll kill you! As Jean started foaming at the mouth, Penelope snapped out of it. Sorry, she said, letting go. For some reason, my body has an uncontrollable urge to murder anyone who says the word planner. Penelope figured that even if he was the most unreliable one, at least she'd made contact with someone from her world. She smiled sweetly. You're going to explain everything to me now, right? The terrified holy maiden nodded frantically. Okay, I'll tell you everything. After a bit more intimidation, the pitiful holy maiden spilled the beans. The game company was trying to break into the immersive VR market and had given their top player, her, the only beta testing spot. But there was a small accident. To meet the summer launch deadline, the entire development team had been working insane overtime for 3 months straight. When their overtime pay kept getting denied, the programmers smashed the main server. And that's exactly when she had abnormally logged into the game, resulting in her current situation. Jean said he was just as confused as she was. But one thing was certain, this world was no longer under their control. It had become a world created solely for her. He asked if she had made any kind of wish to the system when she received the invitation code. When Penelope tried to remember, it was like the memory was blocked. She told Jean that since coming here, she had lost all her personal memories. But she still had her modern-day knowledge and game experience. She just didn't know who she was or what kind of life she had lived. She asked if he knew anything about it. Jean explained that if she had lost her memories here, there was only one possibility. She herself didn't want to remember them and had willingly discarded them. He promised he would find a way to get her out, but in the meantime, she needed to take care of herself. And also, he added, we're counting on you for the second half of the year's revenue. Penelope shot him a look that said he was asking for another beating. Then, she held out her hand. Give me the divine power. She told him there was someone she wanted to save. Jean asked if she meant a character from the game. Penelope told him that to the developers, the characters might just be bugged data. To her, their warm hugs and genuine emotions felt all too real. As long as she was in this world, she didn't want to see anyone die in front of her. She wanted the power to help them. Jean stared at her for a moment, then said, Follow me. He stood behind Penelope in the main sanctuary, and a holy, ancient voice echoed through the hall. In the name of the goddess Ernest, I swear to be her eyes, to see all that is beautiful, to be her hands, to fight all that is unjust. I will love this world with all that I am, and in turn be loved by the world. When the ritual was over, Penelope walked out of the sanctuary and ran right into the prince who had rushed over. I just received a divine message that the true divine maiden has been born, he said, breathless. I prayed that I would see you again, and it seems the goddess heard my prayers. While the prince was chattering on, Derek appeared. He greeted the young prince formally, then turned back to Penelope with a scolding look. Penelope quickly apologized, and Derek started to lead her away. But the prince grabbed her hand. Please become the future empress of this empire. Penelope was stunned. He had to be lying. His words were sweet, but the smile never reached his eyes. He was willing to propose to a girl he had no feelings for, just because of her divine maiden title, only to cast her aside later like in the game. He was a total scumbag. But just then, her brother Derek pulled Penelope behind him. My sister is still young. It is too early to speak of marriage. Please do not joke, Your Highness. The prince pulled Penelope back to his side. Sir Eckhart, I don't recall asking for your opinion. And so began the tug-of-war. Derek said Penelope didn't agree either. The prince said that even as her brother, he had no right to decide for her. Then they both turned to Penelope. What do you think? Penelope was on the verge of tears. She was being held in the most awkward, uncomfortable position, suspended between them. You two can argue all you want, but what does it have to do with me? My feet aren't even touching the ground, she wailed. What should have been a dramatic, heart-pounding love triangle scene felt more like being rescued from a flood like a stranded piglet. Could you two? She asked tearfully. Please deal with my current embarrassing situation first. They both misunderstood, pulling on her even harder. Finally, the prince seemed to get it and let her go, suggesting they settle things with a duel. But then they decided a sword fight might be too bloody for a lady's eyes, so the prince proposed they play cards instead. Penelope was flabbergasted. What was happening? Apparently, a card game called Camille Cards was all the rage. Legend had it that the goddesses Ernest and Alina created it in their spare time. The Holy Maiden introduced it to the Empire, and it became an instant hit with everyone from the king to 3-year-old commoners. Derek agreed that a duel with Camille cards was more appropriate. The prince explained the rules. There are 53 cards in a Camille deck, one of which is the dark goddess, Alina. We deal the cards, discard any pairs we have, and then take turns drawing one card from the opponent. If it makes a pair, we discard it. The first person to get rid of all their cards wins. After listening carefully, Penelope couldn't believe her ears. This was just Old Maid. Let the Penelope Championship begin, a makeshift announcer declared. The first annual Old Maid, Camille card tournament is now officially underway. I object, Penelope shouted. You almost said Old Maid tournament. The announcer explained that was the original name of the game, but the Holy Maiden found it distasteful and had it changed. Penelope gritted her teeth. Of course it was that jerk. Even if she was the villainess, the marriage of the esteemed Lady Eckhart was being decided by a children's card game. They had to be joking. The game began. The prince drew first, picking the Alina card, the Old Maid from Derek's hand. Penelope thought, well, at least Derek has a permanent poker face, so it's hard to read him. But just as she thought that, a field of colorful flowers bloomed behind Derek. Seeing this, the prince immediately switched his choice to another card. The flowers behind Derek instantly withered and died. How are we supposed to play like this? Penelope screamed internally. Derek, get it together. Stop blooming flowers, and stop wilting. Everyone can read you like a book. They were definitely going to lose at this rate. Penelope decided she had to do something. She ran up to Derek, gave him a quick peck on the cheek, and whispered in his ear, "Go, brother, go! You have to win! You're the best!" She continued to cheer him on from the side. Derek immediately perked up. Penelope figured if he just kept blooming flowers, the prince wouldn't be able to tell his emotions from the background. A minute later, the prince won anyway. Penelope realized that Derek had been drawing the Old Maid from the start. The guy only ever drew the middle card. The prince was about to gleefully declare his victory when Penelope shouted, "Wait!" The teachings of the goddess state that a person's marriage should be their own decision. Isn't it a bit rash for even a brother to decide without her consent? She took off her glove and slapped it on the table. She was going to play the next round herself. The prince said he would be honored. Penelope thought she had the element of surprise this time. She wasn't a master, but at least her background wouldn't sprout flowers. On her very first draw, she picked the Old Maid. The exact same thing that happened to Derek happened to her. The prince won easily again, remarking that the siblings were truly two peas in a pod. Well, the prince said cheerfully, since the person in question has now agreed, I suppose the next step is to meet the parents, isn't it? And just like that, with a ridiculous game of Old Maid, she had lost herself. Sitting in the carriage, Penelope's heart hammered in her chest. Her brother was in another carriage, meaning she had to face this smiling tiger of a prince alone. Finally, she worked up the courage to ask, about the marriage thing. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? We only just met today. The prince replied, many noble couples don't meet until their wedding day. Don't worry about it. But I think I'm still too young. That's fine. We can get engaged first. I need my parents' consent. Aren't we on our way to the Eckhart estate right now? The prince had an answer for everything. Finally, she blurted out, but I don't even like you. An awkward silence filled the carriage. Was that too direct? Penelope quickly tried to backtrack. I'm sorry, what I mean is... Suddenly, the prince's expression turned cold. And what does that matter? Penelope froze. The prince continued, it seems you fail to understand the nature of this marriage. Every 20 years, a divine maiden is born and granted power to bring hope to the people of the empire. This power can be used in almost any field. If it were to fall into the hands of another nation, it would bring misfortune to our people. Therefore, marrying the divine maiden has always been the best way to maintain stability. Do you understand? The purpose of this marriage is the long-term security of the nation. Whether or not we love each other is completely irrelevant. I can give you time to process this. But I hope you understand that the Empire will not tolerate anything that threatens its stability. Then, just as quickly, his smile returned. Of course, after we're married, you will live in the highest luxury. Please rest assured on that point. He then asked, are you all right? You look quite pale. Just then, the carriage arrived at the gates of the Eckhart estate. The prince gallantly helped Penelope down. She was still in shock. This man was nothing like the prince she knew from the game. The Callisto who was with Clare was gentle and kind. But the man who had just spoken to her was, without a doubt, threatening her. If she refused, she might trigger an early death ending and could even endanger her new family. What do I do? The three of them walked into the courtyard together. I've known the Duke for 2 years, but this is my first time visiting his estate, the prince remarked. You've met my father? Penelope asked, thinking, that makes one of us. Yes, he's a mentor of sorts to me, the prince replied. I've often heard him speak of how poised and beautiful Lady Eckhart is. I hope my sudden visit isn't too rude. Just then, Penelope spotted her mother up ahead, holding a shovel and digging a hole. Penelope noticed some food in a maid's hands nearby, took a bite, and immediately spit it out. It was awful. It turned out her mother had gone to a tea party, where all the other noble ladies were sharing stories about things they had handmade for their children. Inspired, her mother had tried to cook for her kids, but the result was a culinary disaster. She was trying to bury the evidence before they got home. When her mother offered the leftovers to Derek, he politely declined, saying that the best way she could show her motherly love was by not cooking. His mother looked heartbroken. "You don't love me anymore." The prince, standing nearby, was trying very hard not to react. Penelope turned to him. "So, what do you think of the poised and beautiful Duchess Eckhart on your first meeting?" The prince just gave a polite, non-committal smile. This guy is such a hypocrite, she thought. Her mother finally noticed the guest Penelope had brought home. "Oh, he's so cute. What's your name?" she cooed, patting him on the head. When the prince introduced himself, her mother froze. "The crown prince?" Penelope quickly explained they had met at the festival and just hit it off. Suddenly, the prince stood up, bowed to her mother, and said, "Madam, I will be direct. I hope you will consent to my marriage with Lady Penelope. We are the perfect match destined by the goddess herself." Her mother snapped out of her shock. "But you're both so young. You should talk about these things when you're older." Penelope hid behind her mother, sticking her tongue out. "That's right, Mom. Tell him. And then dump that pot of mystery gunk on his head." The prince pressed on. "Please believe me, this will be the most advantageous match in the Empire. Lady Penelope has just received her divine power. By joining the royal family, her power can be used to its greatest potential. It will also be incredibly beneficial for foreign diplomacy. I have already drafted a 10-year political plan, which I will now explain to you." At that moment, her mother's expression shifted wildly. She grabbed the nearest pot, pan, and chair and started chucking them at the prince, even trying to punch him. "Shut up. I don't understand a single word you're saying." "I said no, and I mean no." The prince dodged everything gracefully, looking flustered. "Duchess Eckhart, please calm down. If there is something you don't understand, you can just ask." But just then, the pot full of mystery food flew through the air and landed squarely on the prince's head with a loud clang. Penelope and her family froze in horror. "Your Highness, are you all right?" The mysterious goo from the pot dripped down his hair. The prince touched a finger to it, brought it to his lips, and tasted it. "Disgusting," he said flatly. Luckily, the prince didn't seem angry. He just smiled and said he wouldn't be able to go home tonight and would need to borrow their bath. Penelope marveled at his self-control. Later, Penelope wanted to try using her new divine power to heal her mother's illness. Her mother insisted she was fine but couldn't refuse Penelope's pleading look. Penelope led her to her room and had her lie down. Focusing intently, Penelope channeled her divine power and began the healing. Her mother said it felt very soothing and soon fell asleep. Penelope continued late into the night using all her strength, but she found that no matter how much she healed, the sickness just kept regenerating. She was reaching her limit. Suddenly, a strange, powerful light erupted from her mother, throwing Penelope back. When she looked down, she saw that her own hands were covered in a black, shadowy energy. That's when she realized, no wonder the best doctors and healers in the Empire couldn't cure her mother. They were treating the wrong thing. This wasn't a disease, it was a curse. Who would place such a vicious curse on her? With her current power, Penelope couldn't hope to fight it. Just as she was about to wake her mother and ask, there was a knock on the door. Crap, she thought. The black marks on her hands wouldn't fade away that quickly. How was she going to explain this? Derek walked in, wondering why their mother had fallen asleep with the window open. He didn't see Penelope in the room, but then he heard a noise from the balcony. He whirled around, wondering who was there. Hiding on the balcony, Penelope stared at the marks on her hands. My mother's sudden illness. Was this why the in-game Derek misunderstood the original Penelope? Her brother, sensing something was wrong, came out to check. Deciding to take a risk, Penelope leaped from the balcony onto a large tree branch. But as luck would have it, her new perch gave her a perfect view into the window of the room below, where the crown prince was currently taking a bath. Their eyes met. The awkwardness was palpable. The prince was the first to speak. "May I ask what you are doing?" Hanging precariously from the branch, Penelope managed a weak smile. "If I said I was moon-gazing, would you believe me?" "Does moon-gazing require such an unusual posture?" the prince asked. Embarrassed, Penelope scrambled onto the branch properly, sitting with her back to him. "The moon is beautiful tonight," she declared. "Lady Eckhart's hobbies are certainly unique," the prince remarked dryly. Mind your own business, she thought. Was she supposed to stay like this until the marks on her hands disappeared? Then an idea came to her. "Your Highness," she said, "can I ask you a question? If the divine maiden wasn't the daughter of the Eckhart family but just a commoner, would you still try to force her into marriage?" The prince rose from the bath. "Do you think I'm interested in you because of your noble status?" He picked up an expensive bottle of hair oil from a nearby shelf. This cost 17 gold coins a bottle. A commoner in the Empire lives on less than 10 gold coins a year. Nobles shouldn't enjoy such luxury without paying a price. A loveless marriage in exchange for a lifetime of wealth and comfort? Is that really such a bad deal? As long as you don't tarnish the nation's honor, I won't interfere with your life after we are married. I hope you will think about it and give me your answer tomorrow. Please make the right choice. Just as the prince finished dressing, he noticed Penelope was still staring at him. Do you normally watch people get dressed? He asked, annoyed. Penelope quickly said she was just thinking. But she also felt a sense of relief. It seemed the prince wasn't completely unreasonable. There might still be a way out of this. About the engagement, she said firmly. I must respectfully decline. The prince sighed. I see. Don't sigh just yet, Penelope continued. I'm not trying to shirk my duties as a noble. There are many ways to fulfill one's duty. And marriage isn't the only one. She held out her hand. I can promise you that my divine power will only ever be used for the good of the empire. But in return, I hope you will lend me your aid when I need it in the future. And why should I trust you? The prince asked. Penelope admitted, all right, I need the power of the royal family to help me investigate something. A relationship based on mutual benefit is the most reliable, don't you think? The prince laughed. You are far more interesting than I remember. He agreed to her proposal. Then, as allies, Penelope said, raising her hand, can I offer you a small piece of advice? When the prince agreed, she reached out and flicked him on the forehead. What kind of environment did you grow up in anyway? The prince rubbed his head, confused. Penelope continued, if you don't like something, say so. If you don't want to smile, don't. You have to express your true feelings so that people can understand you. And if you ever meet someone you genuinely fall for, you'd better not treat them like this, okay? The prince fell silent, thinking, no one has ever said that to me before. His parents, the ministers, the public, everyone always reminded him to act like a prince. This was the first time someone had told him to be honest with his feelings. He smiled, a genuine one this time. Penelope, he said, grabbing a lock of her hair, do you want to hear my honest opinion? If I had to choose, I think gold hair is cuter. The next day, Penelope hitched a ride into town with the prince. After they arrived, she told him she would write to him in a few days about the favor she needed. Are you sure you'll be all right with just one maid? The prince asked. We'll be fine, Penelope said. Just then, her maid cracked her knuckles with a sound like thunder and punched the ground, shattering the cobblestones. The prince stared in shock. Right then. Well, do be careful, he said, and the two parted ways. Penelope suspected the royal family might be involved with her mother's curse and needed to gather more information. She remembered that in the game, there was no better place for that than a tavern. She found one in the city and walked in. Taverns were always the best places to gather intel in games. You might find the youngest ever knight commander hitting on a long-lost archmage, or a wandering bard in the corner who was secretly the prince of a small kingdom. That little girl eating jam toast over there? She's probably a 1,000-year-old witch. All the most powerful people in the world seemed to hang out in taverns. It was a classic trope of the genre. Penelope decided to start asking around. Just then, an angry voice cut through the noise. Are you deaf? I said I want a drink. Get me a drink. Penelope looked over and saw a large man grabbing a purple-haired girl by the collar. But sir, the girl said timidly, you still haven't paid for your last drink. So what if I owe you a few coins? You looking down on me? The man snarled, shoving the girl to the floor. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, she whimpered. Penelope recognized her. It was the same girl from the festival. Why was she always getting harassed by weirdos? Even the dialogue was almost the same. There are so many powerful people here, Penelope thought. Someone else will probably step in. It's better not to get involved. But then the girl spotted Penelope. Lady Eckhart, is that really you? Am I dreaming? She cried out, grabbing Penelope's hand. Penelope was completely thrown. Whenever I'm in trouble, you appear, the girl continued, her eyes wide with awe. Are you an angel? No, Penelope stammered. Look, you seem busy, so maybe I should just go. No, wait, the girl said. Just give me 1 second, I'll take care of this. She then picked up a fruit knife from the counter. The large man was still blustering. If you get on your knees and beg, maybe I'll consider... He trailed off as a sharp blade appeared in front of his face. The little girl's voice was soft but chilling. I have a very, very important guest right now that I absolutely cannot neglect. So could you please leave? With a terrified, I'm sorry, the man scrambled away. The girl put down the knife and grabbed Penelope's hand again, her expression back to one of pure delight. Lady Eckhart, it's so wonderful to see you again. This must be fate. Penelope just sighed. Why do I always get tangled up with the weirdest people? Penelope and the little girl found a table and sat down. Penelope ordered some food. The girl insisted that she should be the one to treat her, but Penelope just waved it off. Don't worry about it, she said. As long as you don't pull out any more knives, we're good. The girl was about to say Lady Eckhart, but Penelope cut her off. We're around the same age, just call me Penelope. The girl looked horrified. But how could I? To use your first name on our second meeting? That's practically a confession. Penelope had no idea that in the girl's mind, a whole scene was playing out. Penelope was leaning in close, saying, "The truth is, I've always felt something for you." The little girl blushed furiously, thinking, how could this be? We're still so young. The wedding will have to wait at least 10 years. Oh, what should we name the children? Ahem, I still don't know your name, Penelope said, pulling the girl back to reality. Snapping out of it, the girl flushed with embarrassment. Oh, how rude of me. My name is Clare. Penelope froze. Clare Rodriguez? She asked her to repeat it, just to be sure. What a lovely name, Penelope said, but inside her mind was exploding. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. In the game, to help the player self-insert, the heroine was either shown from the back or her face wasn't drawn. I can't believe I didn't recognize her. This is the main character of the game. This is my nemesis, the one I'm destined to lose to. And she keeps glomming onto me. What do I do now? Just say I'm busy and run for it? Just as she was about to make an excuse, Claire's expression shifted to one of heartbreaking pity, cutting Penelope off. I knew it. Eating with a lowly commoner like me is unpleasant for you, isn't it? No, not at all. Penelope denied it frantically, stuffing a bite of food in her mouth. This food is delicious. Clare immediately beamed. Really? That's wonderful. Seeing no way out, Penelope gave up trying to escape. All the powerful characters in the game tended to gravitate toward the heroine. If she could build a good relationship with Clare, maybe she could get some useful information. Just then, the waiter brought a fruit platter. Clare took one look at it and told him, "Please replace the mango with something else. Miss Penelope is allergic to mango." Penelope was stunned. How did you know that? Clare explained that her neighbor was the study partner for the young master of the Eckhart family, and he was always asking her about Penelope. She sighed. We're both commoners, but I'm so jealous of him. Penelope remembered him now. The boy's name was Helen. He had lost sight in one eye, and his family couldn't afford the treatment, so the Eckhart family had made an exception and hired him as a study partner, more as an act of charity than anything. But when Clare heard this, her eyes lit up. So, if I just lose an eye, I can be by Miss Penelope's side too? She asked, picking up a fruit knife and stabbing it into the table. Penelope stared at her, horrified. What is wrong with this girl? How can she say something so terrifying with such an innocent look on her face? I know the game gave the heroine different personality options for player convenience, but this one is a little extreme. Why do you suddenly want to be a study partner? Penelope asked. So I can be close to you every day? Clare wanted to say, but she held back her stalker-ish thoughts. Instead, she said, because I want to learn how to read. Penelope, oblivious to Clare's true intentions, was suddenly reminded of what the prince had said. While commoner children struggle just to survive, children born into noble families like me can live in comfort and luxury without lifting a finger. Feeling a wave of sympathy, she reached out and gently stroked Clare's cheek. Come to the Eckhart estate, she said. I'll sponsor your education. Later, Penelope had Clare write down the names of everyone she knew who was skilled in advanced curse magic. Holding the list, Penelope asked, is it possible for someone to use a curse that even divine power can't break? Clare looked at her as if she were crazy. Are you joking? Divine power is a gift from the gods. It's superior to all other forms of magic. If someone had power greater than that, wouldn't they have to be a god themselves? Penelope's eyes widened. Clare's words made her realize that things were far more complicated than she'd thought. The curse on her mother? Could it have come from a so-called god? Back at the palace, Prince Callisto quickly received Penelope's letter. After reading it, he immediately summoned all available officials. I want every piece of information you can find on Cecilia Eckhart before sunset today, he commanded. Meanwhile, Penelope was sneaking Clare back into her own house. They tiptoed into her room, and Penelope breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness her brother wasn't around to see them. Noticing Clare's tattered clothes, she told her to take them off. Clare immediately got the wrong idea, but before she could blush, Penelope had pounced, stripping her and dressing her in new clothes in a matter of seconds. Clare's face was beet red. Wasn't that a little fast? I wasn't prepared. These are just my old clothes from last year, Penelope explained. You're a bit thinner than me, so they should fit perfectly. When Clare realized she was wearing Penelope's hand-me-downs, she started blushing and fantasizing again. Isn't this like an indirect hug? She thought, rolling around happily on the bed. Penelope was just glad she liked them. She had Clare try on all sorts of outfits, intellectual styles, cool and edgy clothes, simple and elegant dresses. She discovered that dressing someone else up was actually really exciting. No wonder the head maid, Helen, loved styling her so much. She told Clare to pick out some hair accessories she liked while she went to have Helen arrange a room for her. Penelope pulled open her door, only to find Derek standing right there. "I heard voices," he said, his eyes narrowed. "Did you bring someone strange home again?" He pushed past Penelope's desperate attempts to close the door and walked in, coming face to face with Clare. To Penelope's horror, the two of them just stared at each other for a full 10 seconds. "Is this love at first sight?" Derek walked right past Penelope and scanned the room, before finally asking her, "You didn't bring any strange men home, did you?" Just then, Clare spoke up. "And who might you be?" Penelope quickly made the introductions. "This is my older brother, Derek." "And brother, this is Clare. I'm going to hire her as my study partner." Clare, who had looked a little annoyed a moment ago, immediately brightened up. "Oh, so you're her brother," she said cheerfully, thinking, he may be a man, but he's family. No threat there. Derek was also thinking, she's a little weird, but she's a girl. Shouldn't be a problem. To Penelope's astonishment, the two of them suddenly shook hands as if they had reached some sort of silent agreement. Derek then called for a maid to take Clare to her new room. After she left, he turned to Penelope with a glare. "You're getting pretty good at acting first and asking for permission later, aren't you?" Penelope winced. "My bad. I just met her at a tavern and we really hit it off. It won't happen again." Hearing the word tavern, Derek's eyes narrowed. "What were you doing there?" Penelope stammered, unable to answer. It wasn't that she didn't trust him, she just didn't want to worry her family. "I haven't caused any major trouble so far, right? So please don't ask anymore. I want to handle this myself." Her brother's face hardened. "That's a terrible excuse. Penelope, you listen to me." Just then, a guard burst in, looking panicked. "We have a huge problem. A message just came from the front lines. The Duke is returning in 3 days." Derek was immediately pulled away to handle the preparations, but he hadn't forgotten that he and Penelope still needed to talk. The next morning, Clare showed up at Penelope's room dressed as a maid. Penelope was confused, but Clare explained that since she was being sponsored, it was only right for her to help out. She then shyly admitted, "I spread the clothes you gave me on my pillow. That way it's like I'm sleeping with you, my lady." Just then, a maid rushed in to announce that the crown prince had arrived. Penelope said a quick goodbye to Clare and excitedly ran to greet him. On the floor above, the other maids watched, sighing about how wonderful it would be to marry the prince. One of them shot down their dreams. "Get a grip, you guys. Don't you know how old you are? The only one here close to the prince's age is Clare." They all turned to Clare, asking her what she thought of the prince. But Clare, watching Penelope and Callisto talking cheerfully below, just scowled and muttered 3 words. "He's an eyesore." Downstairs, Penelope was putting on her best act, sidling up to the prince with a dazzling smile. "Your Highness? What took you so long? I've been waiting for—" "Sorry, I found nothing," the prince said with a smile, cutting her off. Penelope's face fell instantly. She started playfully punching him. "Then what are you even here for? You jerk!" Callisto dodged her blows. "Hold on, don't be so hasty. The fact that I couldn't find anything might actually tell us more." He took her hand, suggesting they talk in the garden. Penelope wondered why they had to go to the garden, but when they got there, she was shocked to see her brother Derek waiting for them. She grabbed the prince's collar. "Why is he here, you traitor?" Callisto looked just as surprised. "You didn't tell him? I thought he already knew. I was hoping we could all discuss it together." Penelope was fuming. "And how exactly were you planning to explain this to my brother?" A large hand clamped down on her head and lifted her up. Her brother's voice was dangerously low. "Why is it that you told him something I don't even know about?" I just asked him to help me investigate something. He doesn't know anything either," Penelope stammered, on the verge of tears. "Then I suggest you explain everything right now," Derek threatened, "or your life might just end here." Under her brother's threats and the prince's cheerful prodding, Penelope finally told them about their mother's curse. Derek was furious. "Why didn't you tell me about something this important sooner?" Callisto then explained what "found nothing" meant. There is no record of a Cecilia Eckhart in the Imperial Registry. There's only an entry for Duchess Eckhart. Her birthplace, her family, her relatives, all of it is blank. Derek realized that his mother had, in fact, never spoken about her family. The prince continued, "If there is a power stronger than divine power, it could only come from the most mysterious of the Empire's 4 great families. The Empire was founded by 4 families who worship the 4 main gods. The royal family, the Azure Devonshires, worship the goddess of light. The Crimson Eckharts worship the god of war. The Obsidian Savoys worship the goddess of darkness. And the most mysterious of all are the Golden Stratus, who worship the god of time." Combined with the curse that surpassed even divine power, the prince had a theory, which led him to the mysterious Stratus family. Their lands are blessed by the god of time, he explained. It's said that any life born there will remain forever in its most beautiful moment. Flowers never wilt, people never age, and the seasons never change. But this blessing comes with a condition. No one from the family can ever step foot outside their territory. If the Duchess was born there, it would all make sense. The curse is the punishment she received for betraying the god of time and leaving with you two. Derek stood up. I'm going to tell father. Callisto stopped him. Do you really think he doesn't know? Derek froze. Ever since Penelope was born, the Duke voluntarily requested to be stationed near the Stratus territory. Callisto continued. Looking back now, he was probably hoping to find a way to break the curse, which makes his reason for returning now very interesting. Best case scenario, he's found a solution. If not, then perhaps he just wants to spend his last moments with the woman he loves. So, are you too sure you want to interfere in something that even a man like him couldn't solve? Of course we do, Penelope declared. As long as there's even a sliver of a chance, we can't give up, Derek said at the same time. Callisto smiled. You two hot-headed fools, but I don't dislike it. So, what's your plan? If we have to, we'll go to the Stratus family, Derek said. But for now, the most important thing is to prepare for father's return. We can't be disrespectful. Penelope chimed in innocently. I've been meaning to ask, is it really necessary to make such a big fuss just because father is coming home? Derek grabbed her by the shoulders, his eyes wide with shock. You don't know about father's heroic deeds? Callisto grabbed her other shoulder. It seems a history lesson is in order. Panicked, Penelope was about to protest, but they dragged her to the library for a forced study session. 2 hours later, she finally escaped and ran crying to Clare for comfort. I never should have asked, she wailed. All I said was, is it really necessary to make such a big fuss? And they made me listen to 2 hours of legendary tales that were obviously exaggerated 1,000 times over. Things like, he can kill an enemy with a single shout, or take someone's head from 500 meters away. If I didn't know they were talking about the Duke, I would have thought they were describing a superhero. Meanwhile, the entrance to the Eckhart estate had turned into a bustling marketplace, filled with tents and vendors. Duke Alger Eckhart rode through the adoring crowd on a white horse, his guards clearing a path. He was clearly beloved by the people. Derek led the entire household out to greet him. Welcome home, father. I trust all is well on the front lines? The Duke gave a single, curt nod in reply. From the crowd, Penelope muttered, Wow, he seems so cold. Derek and the rest of the staff froze. Had this girl lost her mind? Penelope finally realized what she'd said and quickly added, My dearest, most beloved father. As the tension mounted, her father finally spoke. The weather is nice today. Penelope looked up at him surprised. He was sweating, and his eyes were darting around nervously. Is he nervous? The legendary, ruthless Duke Eckhart? Nervous to the point of stuttering just from talking to the daughter he hasn't seen in years? No, it must be my imagination. Father, you must be tired from your journey, she said quickly. Please come inside and rest. Wait, he said, fumbling inside his coat. He pulled out a small stuffed bunny and held it out to her. For you, a present. Penelope accepted it happily, and her father walked away with a proud look on his face. All along the way, citizens thanked the Duke for his contributions to the empire, and a little girl even gave him a bouquet of flowers. He just stood there stiffly, mobbed by the crowd. The scene was chaotic. Once he finally made it inside, he saw his wife calling his name from a distance. They ran into each other's arms, whispering how much they had missed each other. Standing off to the side, Penelope and Derek felt like they were being blinded by the sheer force of their love. Later, Penelope asked Derek if their father was always so unique when he spoke. Derek explained that their father tended to stutter whenever he got nervous, which was almost all the time. It made it hard for him to command respect on the battlefield, so he eventually decided to just stop talking altogether. Penelope was speechless. So that's how the ruthless Duke Eckhart got his reputation. Just then, their mother interrupted them. The family is finally together again. Let's all go on a trip. Penelope was about to agree when Derek clamped a hand over her mouth. I'm very sorry, Mother, he said. There's a swordsmanship exchange next week, and I've already received an invitation from the prince. I can't go with you. Penelope was about to protest when her brother whispered one word in her ear, Stratus. He then explained that the prince had promised to find a way in. He didn't know why Callisto was so invested in this, but right now they had no choice but to trust him. Just then, their mother said to their father, Alger, let's go say hello to the prince later. It's your first time meeting him, we shouldn't be rude. Penelope froze. She clearly remembered the prince saying that he and her father had known each other for years. Her father looked just as confused. I've never met him before. Meanwhile, the prince was sipping tea in the courtyard, listening to a guard's report. Your Highness, the magical supplies you requested are being prepared as quickly as possible. Good, the prince replied. He then sighed to himself. I hope this time, things will be different. Elsewhere, Clare, the new maid, was exhausted. There weren't enough staff, so she was doing every job imaginable, even falling asleep at the dinner table. One of the other maids felt sorry for her. Don't worry, all the well-wishers are leaving tomorrow. You should take the chance to rest. Who knows, there might be another big ceremony soon. Seeing the other maid's confused looks, she leaned in to gossip. You haven't heard? About Lady Penelope and the prince's wedding? I heard she's going to the swordsmanship exchange with him next week. It's basically a date, right? No one noticed the color drain from Clare's face. They were almost engaged after all. Another maid chimed in. Last time, the prince was the one pushing for it. But if he keeps pushing, she's bound to give in eventually. I think it's going to happen. Suddenly, Clare stood up, her face twisted into a strange expression. I'm going back to work. The other maids were confused. What work was there to do this late at night? That's when they noticed that while the food on Clare's plate was untouched, the plate itself was shattered into pieces. One of them laughed. Wow, these dishes are really poor quality. But another maid gasped. That's not the point. The steak knife is missing. The night was dark as the prince strolled through the courtyard. Suddenly, he heard a rustle behind him. Instantly on alert, he spun around and unleashed a spell. Your judgment! With a crackle of lightning, a small figure was caught in a magical bind. They're getting more and more shameless, the prince sighed. Sending a child to be an assassin. He picked up the steak knife from the ground. I'll make it quick, he said to the figure. May you be reborn into a better life. He raised the knife. Just then, the clouds parted, and in the moonlight, the prince saw the assassin's face. He froze. It was Clare. At that exact moment, Penelope, who had heard from the maids that Clare was missing, came running. She immediately threw herself in front of Clare. What's going on? What did you do to her? The prince stared for a moment, then started to chuckle, which turned into a full-blown, face-clutching laugh, leaving both girls utterly confused. When he finally stopped, he said, Sorry, it was a misunderstanding. Bring her along to the exchange. Seeing Penelope's baffled expression, he added, Trust me, she'll be a great asset. What does that mean? Penelope demanded. You haven't learned swordsmanship or magic, Penelope, the prince explained. So before we go to Stratus, you'll need a guard to protect you. Someone with enough combat skill, who is close enough in age to act as a body double if needed. And most importantly, someone who would never betray you. He looked at Clare. You can do that, can't you? He then said her full name, Clare Rodriguez. Clare froze. How do you know that name? Penelope asked, shocked. I don't know, the prince replied. Maybe I heard it in a dream. Penelope was exasperated. Is that where you met my father too, in a dream? The prince just smiled. That's a secret. Penelope sighed. It was clear she wasn't going to get any answers out of him. What Penelope didn't know was that the prince was sorry for hiding things from her, but now was not the time to reveal all his cards. He wanted to observe her a little longer. He was betting that this Penelope was different from all the others before. After the prince left, Penelope tried to comfort Clare, telling her not to take his words to heart. But Clare insisted on going with them. She grabbed Penelope's hands, promising not to complain or act on her own. All she wanted was to be of some help to Penelope, even just a little. Seeing her sincerity, Penelope agreed. She then told Clare she didn't need her to be a guard or a body double, just to help her with one small thing: find an opportunity to tie up the prince and give him a good beating. That night, Penelope tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Finally, she sat up. I've been letting my guard down too much lately, she sighed. Tomorrow we leave for the Stratus territory. It's the first time I'm going to a place that wasn't even in the game. I have a bad feeling about this. She squeezed the stuffed bunny her father had given her. What do you think I should do? She asked it, then laughed at herself. What am I doing? A bunny can't talk. Suddenly, a voice squeaked from the bunny. Daddy! Then it continued. Daddy, can you help me? I think I'm stuck in this stupid rabbit. Penelope's face went blank. She threw a pillow at the bunny. No, that's just my imagination. Bunnies can't talk. I must be too stressed. But then the bunny started to glow and the voice came again. Hey, stop squeezing me! Oh! Penelope shrieked in terror. With a final, Daddy, I'm so happy to finally see you. I missed you so much. A familiar woman and a strange man appeared in a flash of light. The woman was none other than the dorky Holy Maiden, the game developer Jean. Recognizing the dork, Penelope immediately punched him. Are you trying to give me a heart attack in the middle of the night? But I went through so much trouble to get here, Jean wailed. Penelope glared at him. Explain why you've been out of contact for 2 months, leaving me all alone here. It's not that we didn't want to, Jean whimpered. The man in black behind him finished the sentence. It's that we couldn't. Penelope finally noticed the other person. "And who are you?" Jean introduced him. "This is the company's head of tech, Jay. Some things have happened with the game system that I can't really explain, so I brought him here to do it." Jay began to explain. "The four great families haven't officially appeared in the current version of the game, but they are following the established lore. What's truly strange are Callisto and Clare. Their personalities are completely different from the original game. Their love and hatred are abnormal." Penelope was stunned. Jean jumped in. "The system doesn't show this to players, but on the back end, we can see each character's hidden affection level for the protagonist. That level determines how they talk to you and what they do. Callisto's personality is set to be very good at hiding his true feelings. So you probably don't know this, but from the moment he met you, his affection level was negative. You could call it disgust. On the other hand, the heroine, Clare, has had an affection level dozens of times higher than anyone else's from the very beginning. It's almost like a form of worship. If it was just a bug causing personality changes, that wouldn't be so bad. What we're worried about is that there's a deeper reason for all this. After we noticed the abnormal affection levels, we tried to contact you immediately." Jay continued. "But we found that the game's defense system had suddenly been strengthened, and we couldn't reach you from the outside anymore. We spent 2 months trying to trick the system until we finally disguised the code as this rabbit and managed to get a few minutes with you tonight. Someone is actively trying to stop us from interfering with this world." "Could it be Callisto or Clare?" Penelope whispered. Jay shook his head. "Not necessarily. Normal NPCs don't have that much authority. To strengthen the defense system, you'd need access to the system's core, like a god. So it's no coincidence that the Stratus map has opened up. It's the place closest to a god." Jean grabbed Penelope's hand. "I'll use all the authority I can to bless you, but I can't guarantee your safety. You have to be careful. In places outside of the game's published content, no one knows what might happen." Suddenly, Jean clutched his head in pain. "Damn it, we're out of time! Penelope, listen carefully. Be careful of everyone you're traveling with. One of them is a spy for the god." The next day, Penelope, her brother Derek, Clare, and Prince Callisto set off for the mysterious land of Stratus. The four of them were crammed into a single carriage, deep in a heated game of Monopoly. Clare was the clear winner, and Derek was doing abysmally, having already lost so badly he'd been sold into slavery on a pirate ship. Even Callisto couldn't take it anymore. "Derek, you are terrible at this. We've been playing since we left, and you haven't won a single round." Derek, however, was still determined to play another round. But Penelope was feeling down. "Why do we have to keep playing Monopoly?" she mumbled. Callisto held up a stack of games, offering other options, but Penelope refused. The problem wasn't the game. She looked pale. The others immediately asked if she was feeling carsick. Derek noticed her unease and put down his cards. "I understand how you feel," he said gently. "It's your first time dealing with something like this, so it's natural to be anxious. But worrying won't help. It's a week's journey just to get there. If you don't learn to relax, you'll be crushed by anxiety before we even reach our goal." He gently patted her head. "Don't put so much pressure on yourself, okay?" Penelope looked at her brother and smiled. "Okay," Callisto teased. "What a model big brother. I'm so moved I could cry. Too bad he's a total noob at games." Clare chimed in. "If only your chess skills were half as good as your trash talk." Watching them bicker, Penelope felt a little lighter. She remembered what Jean had said. Since their goal is to trap you in this game, they won't hurt you for now. "The blessing I can give you isn't much. It can't block physical attacks, but it will at least keep your mind clear and prevent you from being controlled. Any problems you run into on the map, you'll have to solve on your own." A few days later, they stopped by a river to rest. Callisto unfolded a map. "I thought there was supposed to be an inn around here," he said, confused. Derek, who had gone to look for food, came back empty-handed. It had only been 2 days, but all the food in their storage had rotted. Even some of their non-magical weapons were starting to rust. They were all starving. "Just as I thought," Callisto said. "The flow of time is distorted here. That means we're going in the right direction, but this is happening way too early. We're still a long way from Stratus." Just then, Claire's head shot up. "I smell food." "Why can't I smell anything?" Derek wondered. "Is she part dog?" They followed Clare and, to their surprise, found a campfire with a box of exquisite food cooking over it. It looked like whoever was cooking had run out of firewood partway through. If they could just find a nearby farmer, they wouldn't have to sleep in the wilderness tonight. Penelope, thinking they were out of money for lodging, pulled out the emergency funds her mother had given her and offered it to Callisto. But he explained it wasn't about the money. The Stratus territory was sparsely populated, and the closer they got to the center, the harder it would be to find a place to stay. The best option was to ask a local family to take them in. What he didn't tell them was that the inn that was supposed to be on this road had vanished into thin air. Just then a girl's voice called out, can I help you? They turned to see a beautiful girl dressed as a nun, carrying a bundle of firewood. As she walked towards them, she tripped on a rock and fell flat on her face. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. The girl scrambled up, rubbing her head. I'm so sorry. My name is Teresa. I'm a novice nun. Judging by your clothes, you're not from around here. Is there something I can do for you? The next second, Penelope and Clare were both hugging one of her legs, wailing, Our savior! After they explained their predicament to the bewildered nun, she finally understood. So, you're saying you have no food? The four of them nodded emphatically. Penelope put on her most pitiful face. So, sister, could you possibly take us in? Before she could finish, Callisto clapped a hand over her mouth. If you have any extra food, could we purchase some from you? He asked instead. Teresa explained that she had only brought enough food for herself. Why don't you all come back to the church with me? I can cook you a big meal. At the mention of food, all their stomachs started to growl. They eagerly agreed. Finally, something to eat. A short while later, they arrived at a magnificent church. They were all surprised to find such a large building in such a remote area. Teresa explained that the nearby villagers weren't wealthy, but they were very devout. She then excused herself to go prepare their feast. Derek called after her quietly. Something simple is fine. And please, be as quick as you can. Teresa said it would be faster if someone helped her. She pointed at Clare. You, could you give me a hand? In the kitchen, Clare asked, Out of the four of us, why did you pick me to help? Teresa, wiping away tears from cutting onions, replied, Because the other three look like they've never done a day of work in their lives. The useless trio, as she thought of them. Hearing this, Clare's eyes filled with tears. So it's true. I don't fit in with them, do I? Teresa quickly tried to reassure her. Clare continued, her voice trembling. There's someone I like among them. But when they're standing next to people of their own class, I can't help but feel like we're from different worlds. I'm not good enough for them. Teresa comforted her. The world may have different classes, but in the eyes of the gods, you are all their children. Even if you weren't born into nobility, there is something unique in this world that only you can do. She pulled out a piece of candy and offered it to Clare. As a reward for the unique and special little girl who helped with dinner tonight, I'm giving you one piece of candy. Clare took the candy and popped it in her mouth. It's so sweet, she said happily. Teresa smiled. Of course, it's a rare, high-quality candy. I'm glad you like it. What Clare didn't know was that this was no ordinary candy. Teresa had mixed a single drop of her own blood into it. After a satisfying meal, Penelope was ready for a bath in bed. Clare offered to scrub her back, but Penelope awkwardly declined, saying she was used to bathing alone. Clare lay on the couch, thinking about what Teresa had said. Even if you weren't born into nobility, there is something unique in this world that only you can do. She felt lost, unsure of what to do. When Penelope came out of the bath and called for Clare to take her turn, she found her already asleep. She tucked her in and went to bed herself. As the clock ticked towards midnight, Clare suddenly sat up in bed. A voice was calling her name. Clare! Clare! Come here! You've done well, my child! She got out of bed and walked out the door, muttering, Yes, my lord God. The next morning, Penelope woke up with a yawn. Clare, what time is it? She asked casually, then realized the bed next to her was empty. She wondered if Clare had gone to breakfast early, but then she saw it. The hair ribbon that Clare never took off except to sleep or bathe was still lying on the bed. Something was wrong. Clare was missing. Penelope ran out in a panic, waking Derek and Callisto with her shouts. She grabbed her brother's arm, telling him Clare was missing. They were both shocked. They gathered around Clare's empty bed. Callisto touched the sheets. They're completely cold. She's been gone for a while. Maybe she just went for a walk? Derek suggested. If she had gone out, she would have tied her hair up, Penelope said. Her favorite ribbon is still on the bed. Derek thought for a moment. We're far from the capital. The security isn't great. Maybe she was kidnapped? Penelope was starting to panic, thinking the worst had happened. Derek tried to calm her down. Don't jump to conclusions. If it were kidnappers, they wouldn't have taken a commoner maid and left a noble lady behind. That helped Penelope calm down a little. She ran to find the nun, Teresa, and asked if she had seen Clare last night. Hearing the news, Teresa was so shocked she dropped the tray of food she was carrying. I did see her, she said, trying to remember. Last night, after I finished my prayers, I think I saw her walk out. I called to her from the window, but she didn't respond. I thought she was just going for a walk, so I didn't think much of it. But now that I think about it, her eyes were glazed over, like she was being controlled by someone. She wrung her hands. It's all my fault. If I had been more alert, this wouldn't have happened. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. I know a little tracking magic. If you have something that belongs to her, I might be able to find her. Penelope handed her Clare's ribbon. Teresa used her magic to transform it into a butterfly. "If you follow this butterfly, you should be able to find her," she said. The group thanked her and set off at once. As they left, Callisto, who was walking last, turned and gave Teresa a long, hard look. Teresa just smiled. "May the goddess watch over you on your journey." She watched them go. What they didn't know was that as soon as they were gone, Teresa went back to her room, closed the door, and transformed. He saw something, didn't he? She, or rather, the god with black wings and a malicious face, wondered. Well, what does it matter? There's nothing he can do to change what's coming. The magical butterfly led them deep into a forest. A thick fog swirled around them, but there was still no sign of Clare. Derek was the first to voice his doubts. Can we really trust that nun's tracking magic? How could Clare have gotten this far on her own, without any transportation? Callisto ran his fingers through the mist. "I have a bad feeling about this," he said. Clare's path was deliberate. "If I'm not mistaken, we're on the edge of the fogwood forest, the outer ring of Stratus." "But you said it would take at least another week to get here," Penelope said, confused. "That's if we took the long way around," Callisto replied. "If we cut through the fogwood, it's a huge shortcut. But the fogwood is extremely dangerous. No one comes this way unless they have to." He thought to himself, Clare's disappearance is too suspicious. It seems someone is deliberately luring us through this forest. Derek gripped the hilt of his sword. "If it's just a pack of monsters below level 7, I can guarantee our safe passage." But Callisto's expression was grim. "The most dangerous thing about the fogwood isn't the monsters. It's the way it messes with your mind. It makes you see your greatest fears. Grief and anger can make you turn your blade on your own companions." Derek scoffed. "Don't tell me you're scared, Your Highness." "Brother, stop it," Penelope urged, grabbing his arm. "This isn't the time to fight." "I'm not denying it," Callisto said suddenly. "I know what my greatest fear is. You're right. I am scared." "So you're saying we should just abandon our companion and keep going?" Derek yelled, turning and striding into the forest. "Wait here. I'll bring her back." Penelope, unable to stop him, looked back at Callisto and sighed. These two were impossible. "Aren't you going with him?" Callisto asked. "With his skills, I'm sure he'll be fine," Penelope replied. "And he'll definitely bring Clare back safely. But you're obviously not okay right now. I can't just leave you here alone." They both fell silent, sitting under separate trees. Penelope noticed that Callisto's clasped hands were trembling. She walked over and took his hands in hers. The simple gesture made the air between them feel strangely charged. After a few seconds of silence, Callisto spoke first. "Holding the hand of a man whose marriage proposal you rejected, does this mean you've had a change of heart?" Penelope snatched her hand back, her face flushing. "That's not— How can you still make jokes at a time like this? You must have mentally prepared yourself for this, haven't you?" Callisto laughed. "You're right." He stood up. "Let's go." Derek had already gone in, and after a moment to compose himself, Callisto followed with Penelope. "Once we're in, the hallucinations will start in about 30 seconds, Callisto warned her. "There's no telling when we'll snap out of it. If you wake up before I do—" Penelope walked beside him, trying to think of her own greatest fear. It had to be her past life, being born into a family with no warmth, no love. But it's okay, she thought. I can definitely wake up before he does. But as she breathed in the mist, she was surprised to find that she felt nothing. Callisto, on the other hand, had a dark expression on his face, his eyes red and filled with tears. He was seeing his greatest fear, the destruction of his country. This was why he had hesitated to enter the forest. In the year 710, when Callisto was 8 years old, the high priest of the Temple of Ernest had declared, "The goddess has abandoned the empire," before setting himself on fire in the central cathedral. The world was in an uproar. The secret the royal family had hidden for a century was suddenly out, and rumors spread like wildfire. Losing the goddess's blessing wouldn't destroy the empire, but the panic could. The royal family faced its greatest crisis. The goddess of light was slumbering. The empire hadn't received a divine oracle in 100 years. If they lost the people's trust, their rule would crumble. Under immense pressure, they made a foolish decision. They created a fake god. 3 weeks after the high priest's suicide, the queen announced the birth of a new divine maiden, a sign that the goddess's grace still shone upon the empire. The chosen girl was overjoyed, but Callisto always felt that such a lie was too heavy a burden for a little girl to bear. She should have been lucky, until the real oracle descended. The appearance of Clare Rodriguez brought joy to the royal family, but their past mistake was now a liability. The first divine maiden was cast aside, branded as unworthy. For the next 10 years, the new goddess refused all requests from the priests, speaking only to Clare, as if to emphasize that she was the empire's only hope. Finally, one day, an oracle declared that the divine maiden should be wed to the crown prince. Callisto resented this veiled threat, but her power was real. If Clare truly was the divine maiden who could save the country, then what was the harm in playing along with a fake love story? But sometimes, in the dead of night, Callisto would think of the girl who had been used and then thrown away. What was she doing now? She had been chosen simply to be a part of the royal family's lie, a fake god. And when the real divine maiden appeared, she was cast aside without a second thought. 10 years later, Penelope had lost her family, her honor, her status, everything. But Callisto, who often thought of her in the dead of night, had, upon seeing her again, inexplicably reached out his hand to her. On the day of his 16th birthday, Prince Callisto announced his engagement to Clare in front of everyone. In the crowd below stood Penelope, the girl who had once been hailed as the divine maiden. The look in her eyes was one of undisguised jealousy, disgust, bitterness, and rage. That jealousy eventually twisted her into a monster. Penelope chose revenge. During a sermon, Clare's legitimacy was questioned for the first time. It was Penelope who had secretly instigated it, using others to demand to see the source of Clare's power. It was said that anyone bathed in the light of the divine maiden's power would be blessed for life. It wasn't an unreasonable request, but perhaps not even Clare knew that the god who had given her power was not the goddess of light, but the goddess of darkness. Things quickly spiraled out of control. A rival nation, which had been waiting for an opportunity, used the blasphemy as an excuse to declare war. And the disillusioned citizens were no longer willing to follow the royal family into battle. It was only a matter of time before the flames of war reached the capital. In his darkest hour, Callisto saw her, the dark goddess who had orchestrated everything. The wicked woman offered him the power to start over again and again, but made no demands in return, only saying, "You'll find out when the time comes." Callisto had no choice. His first priority was to save his people from their suffering. To atone for his past mistakes, he betrayed his faith and made a deal with the dark goddess, beginning a cycle of endless rebirth. Back in the forest, Penelope felt a hand tighten around her neck. She struggled, but it was no use. Callisto's eyes were bloodshot, and he was far too strong. He lifted her off the ground and slammed her against a tree. Only one thought echoed in his mind. If this woman is destined to commit treason, then I'll just make her disappear here. She remembered what he had said before they entered the forest. If I lose control, run as far as you can. Was he kidding? How was she supposed to fight a guy 3 years older than her? She thrashed and struggled, and just as she was about to lose consciousness, someone dropped from the sky and broke them apart. It was Derek. Penelope gasped for air, relieved. But then she noticed Derek's eyes were blue. He hadn't regained his senses either. He had just subconsciously identified Callisto as a target. But either way, this was her chance to escape. She was about to run and get help, but halfway there, she turned back. She couldn't just leave them. "You two," she yelled. "Don't you dare get hurt before I get back! Do you hear me?" The two men, who were in the middle of a fierce fight, both turned to look at her, bewildered, then went back to trying to kill each other even more violently. Penelope decided to take that as a yes and finally took off. Walking alone through the forest, she remembered Callisto's other instruction. If you wake up before I do, head towards the thickest part of the fog and get help. The people who live here carry the blood of a monster called a soul-eater bird. It can keep you sane in the fogwood. That was all well and good, but the fog was so thick everywhere she couldn't tell which way to go. If I don't get back soon, they're going to be in real trouble. Just then, she felt a sharp sting on the back of her hand. It was the mark Jean had given her. It couldn't block physical attacks, but it could keep her mind clear. For once, the damn dev came through for me, she thought. The stronger the stinging sensation, the deeper she was in the forest. She just had to follow the pain. Suddenly, she saw the butterfly that had been transformed from Clare's ribbon. She shouted, "Is that you? Come out! We don't have time for this!" Following the butterfly, she came to a cliff. Clare was standing at the very edge. A giant hawk was diving towards her. With nowhere to go, Clare slipped and fell. Penelope could only watch in horror as she plummeted. Seeing Clare fall, Penelope acted on instinct, lunging forward and just barely managing to catch the unconscious girl. But the giant bird wasn't done with them. It swooped down towards them. Unable to wake Clare, Penelope fumbled for the dagger at Clare's waist, pulled it out, and swung it at the bird. The blade sliced through its skin, and a single drop of blood fell onto Clare's face. Her eyes fluttered open. "Penelope? Where are we? What happened?" Penelope held the dagger ready. "Sorry, Clare, no time to explain. Do you have any other weapons besides this dagger?" "No, that's it." Penelope's heart sank. "This is bad." The bird was about to dive again, but just then, with a whoosh, a sharp arrow pierced its side. A commanding girlish voice rang out. "I heard a commotion and thought it was something serious. Turns out it's just a bunch of kids." A beautiful, blonde-haired girl appeared before them, wiping the blood from her arrow with a gloved hand. Meanwhile, the two idiots were still going at it, their swords and magic clashing in a whirlwind of chaos. In Derek's mind-addled state, he was seeing Callisto marrying Penelope. Callisto was laughing, holding Penelope's hand while she cried, "Brother, save me!" This sent Derek into a frenzy, and he attacked with even more ferocity. Callisto, his eyes red with rage, met his attacks with powerful magic. With a massive boom, dust and debris flew everywhere. Penelope and Clare, who had just arrived, huddled together, dodging flying rocks. Clare urged Penelope to go stop them, but Penelope was sweating bullets. "No way, I'll get killed. I have no problem with you leaving them to their fate," Clare said coolly. "How can you be so heartless?" Penelope exclaimed. She then turned and gave her best puppy dog eyes to the blonde girl who was watching the fight with amusement. The girl sighed. "Mother, daughter, why are they all the same?" She wiped the bird's blood onto her arrowhead and walked towards the brawling idiots. Penelope finally realized. Is that the blood of a soul-eater bird? The blonde girl walked right between the two fighting men, reached out, and tapped each of them on the forehead. They both immediately snapped out of it, rubbing their heads in confusion. The girl then slung her bow over her shoulder and drew her sword, looking every bit the seasoned warrior. "Making a mess this big on my land? Don't you kids know better than to play with swords in front of your elders?" And with her arrival, the crisis in the fogwood forest was over. The four of them obediently followed their elder. Derek's arm was injured, and Penelope had wrapped it so tightly he looked like a mummy. He was skeptical, but she just retorted, "Be glad I bandaged it at all." She then muttered under her breath, "I told you not to run off on your own. Now we had to come rescue you. But I found Clare, didn't I?" Callisto was bandaging his own arm nearby. "As long as everyone is okay," he said. Just then, a ferocious, snarling beast lunged at the little blonde girl. She just smirked, knocked an arrow, and let it fly. The arrow glowed with a powerful light and hit the beast with a massive explosion, scaring away all the birds in the vicinity. Derek was stunned. How can someone so small wield such a powerful weapon? A brick came flying through the air and hit him square in the head. "Who are you calling small?" the girl yelled. Derek collapsed. Callisto, ever the diplomat, stepped forward. "I am a representative of the Imperial Royal Family. You may call me Callisto. Please forgive my companion's rude behavior." Seeing his polite demeanor, the girl introduced herself. "I am Kate Stratus, the guardian of this forest. And as you can see, I am a mature and reliable adult." Derek, who had just managed to get up, heard this and looked at her, confused. "An adult?" He walked over, measured her height with his hand, and burst out laughing. Another brick came flying, and another pained yelp from Derek followed. Callisto and Penelope both sighed in unison. "This guy is a total idiot, isn't he?" Callisto got back to business. "We came here to investigate something. Do you, by any chance, know someone who left here 10 years ago?" Before he could finish, Kate cut him off. "I know, you don't have to explain." She grabbed Derek by the collar. "This kid and that girl over there, they're Cecilia's children, aren't they?" Everyone was shocked. Kate just grinned proudly. "I practically raised Cecilia myself." They all stared at her, dumbfounded. Callisto was the first to recover. "Please tell us everything." Kate pointed at the dead beast. "Not so fast. Help me carry this trophy back first." They followed her to the city of Stratus. To their surprise, Kate was well known and respected. Everyone they passed greeted her warmly. But the townspeople were curious about the newcomers. "Visitors from the outside, what season is it? Are there any festivals going on?" A little boy pointed at the dagger on Clare's hip. Understanding, she took it off. "You want to play with this? Here." Just as the boy reached for it, Penelope snatched it away. "You can't give a dangerous thing like this to a child," she scolded. She then knelt down to the boy's level. "This is very dangerous. You have to wait until you're older to learn how to use it, okay?" Seeing this, Kate's expression hardened. She quickly dispersed the crowd. A few steps later, she turned back to Penelope. "Hey, don't you ever say something like that here again." As it turned out, the heroine's mother really was from the mysterious land of Stratus. Not only that, but she was one of only 2 naturally born twins in the city, the other being the heroine's uncle. Penelope had decided to stay and help Stratus change its tragic fate. The first step, dyeing her hair. "Gold hair is the mark of the main family's bloodline," Kate had told her. "It's too conspicuous for you to walk around the city with hair that color." As Kate dyed Penelope's hair, she reminisced, "I used to comb your mother's hair just like this." Very few people in Stratus choose to have children. Most parents can't bear to watch their children never grow older. But even so, Cecilia and Hines were born. She was a child born of hope. It was the first time I had ever witnessed life grow and change. I watched her go from a babbling baby to a laughing, running little girl. She had all the things I could never have. I was happy watching her grow up. But sometimes, it felt like she was a world away. When she was done, Kate warned her to be careful not to get her hair wet or the color would wash out. If you could live a normal life, Penelope asked suddenly, what's the first thing you would want to see? Kate paused, then answered, snow. I want to see the snow. Okay, Penelope said with determination. I'll make sure you see it. Just then, Callisto knocked and entered the room. Sorry to interrupt. Everyone else is ready. I just came to see how you were doing. He then saw Penelope's new black hair and reached out to touch a strand. Black is beautiful, but I still think gold suits you better. Kate was not pleased. If that's all you came to say, you can leave. She still needs to change her clothes. Of course not, Callisto replied. There are 3 people in black cloaks at the inn's entrance asking for you. I thought you should come take a look. Kate agreed and told Penelope to get changed while she went downstairs with Callisto. In the courtyard, Kate suddenly spoke. You brought me out here for a reason. What is it you really want to say? Seeing no point in beating around the bush, Callisto said bluntly, Please stop taking advantage of Penelope's kindness. Such harsh words, Kate retorted. I haven't forced her to do anything. Besides, isn't your goal to find a way to break the curse? Our interests are aligned, or has the great crown prince suddenly gotten cold feet? No, Callisto said firmly. Stratus may have been self-governing for years, but you are still subjects of the Empire. I will stake my family's name on ending the century-long suffering of Stratus. Then what are you complaining about? Kate asked. It's not the same, Callisto insisted. Before you spoke to her, we were motivated by family and duty, not by some grand sense of justice. You know as well as I do that to change the current situation, we will have to ignore the wishes of some and force the future we want upon them. And she, who you have manipulated into wanting to save everyone, will inevitably be hurt when the time comes. With their course set, the group prepared to head into the city. To their dismay, they discovered they would have to walk. The Empire's currency was worthless here. Prince Callisto was the first to object, suggesting they trade their weapons for money. But Derek immediately shot down the idea, saying it would expose their identities. All their funds had been spent by the alcoholic Kate on drinks. The 4 of them were fuming, but they couldn't say a word. I can't go on, Callisto panted, sweat beading on his forehead. I need a break. Derek was unsympathetic. We've only walked 500 meters. Excuse me, I'm a mage, Callisto shot back. I'm not like you brutish swordsmen. Clare, watching them, just smirked. So delicate. Penelope felt a little awkward. Actually, I'm tired too. The sun never sets here, so I haven't been sleeping well. Hearing this, Clare immediately rushed to her side. Miss Penelope, if you're tired, you can lean on my shoulder. Derek agreed that they should probably find a way to earn some money and hire a carriage. Callisto was indignant. Why is your attitude so different with her than it was with me? Just as they were wondering where to get some cash, a shout pierced the air. Help! They turned to see a little girl on a white horse that was bolting in a panic. Penelope cried. Clare was already a blur of motion, sprinting towards the horse. Just as the little girl screamed and fell, she found herself caught in a pair of strong arms. It was Clare. Penelope and the others stared in awe. That was so cool. The 2 men had to admit defeat. The girl's father rushed over, and the little girl, Emma, ran into his arms. He thanked Clare profusely. Emma's hand was sprained, and she was on the verge of tears. What are we going to do? The farm has a delivery next week, and Dad can't possibly manage it all by himself. The 4 of them first feigned concern, then their faces lit up. If you're short-handed, we can help. Just pay us the standard market rate. A short while later, they were at the farm. Penelope pricked her finger while working. Emma rushed over, concerned. Are you okay? You saved me, so we should be repaying you. You don't have to do all this, it's fine, Penelope said. And besides, I want to learn more about this place. She then asked, Is it just the 2 of you running this whole farm? Emma explained that their neighbors helped out sometimes, but it was usually just them. What about your mother? Penelope asked. She died giving birth to me, Emma said. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's okay, it was a long time ago, and I'm actually very lucky. My dad might not look it, but he's not very healthy. He went into a lot of debt trying to save my mom and me. After she died, he not only raised me on his own, but he also paid off all his debts. He's amazing, isn't he? I used to think he could do anything. I never realized how much he sacrificed for me. By the time I noticed something was wrong, it was too late. The doctor said his body had completely given out. No matter what they did, he probably wouldn't live for more than a year. It felt like my whole world was collapsing. Penelope stopped what she was doing. How is that lucky? Emma continued. Because look at him now. He's still alive. It's all thanks to the goddess. Because of the time stop, my father's life has been infinitely extended. Is there anything luckier than that? Hearing this, Penelope was utterly stunned. He was only alive because time had stopped. While the girl's father was asleep, Penelope snuck into his room and tried to use her divine power to heal him. But with a soft thump, her power was repelled. She walked out of the room, staring at her hands in frustration. It's not working? Callisto's sudden appearance made her jump. He quickly covered her mouth, telling her to be quiet and follow him outside. Once they were out of earshot, Penelope asked him what he was doing there. It's obvious the father is sick, isn't it? Callisto said. I could guess what you'd be up to. Seeing that he already knew, Penelope admitted that her power was useless against the mysterious curse. But once the time stop is over, there should be a way. Callisto stared at her for a long moment before finally speaking. If I asked you to give up on trying to save everyone, would you do it? Penelope looked at him confused. There have been divine maidens like you throughout history, he continued. Their incredible healing abilities gave them a sense of responsibility, but their noble characters turned it into a cage. They all eventually learned that the world's suffering is endless and they couldn't protect everyone. Most of them chose to accept the royal family's protection and use their powers within their limits. But some gave their own lives for the sake of others. He looked at her with concern. Whether it's out of a sense of duty, or for your family, or even for my own selfish reasons, can you please not become one of the latter? Penelope sighed. I know, but let me at least try before it comes to that. Callisto seemed to have expected this. Right. It wouldn't be you if you didn't. As they were talking, a yawning Emma came out of the house. She normally didn't have to wake up so early, but with so many guests, she had to start on breakfast. She stopped in the yard when she heard Penelope and Callisto's voices. So how do we end the time stop? Penelope was asking. Do we just get on our knees and ask the god nicely? I'm not sure, Callisto admitted. The god of time is said to be very mischievous. It's unlikely that diplomacy will work, but we could try offering something she's interested in as a trade. It's been over 100 years. Maybe she's grown tired of the current situation. Neither of them knew that Emma had heard every word. After a moment of thought, she walked over and greeted them. Penelope greeted her back. Sorry to bother you so early, Emma said. But it's an emergency. It's fine. What's wrong? The tide came in last night. Yes, the tide, and it damaged the bridge. It needs to be repaired. Could you come with me? Is it serious? I'll go get the others. No. Emma stopped her. Just you and me. Clare opened Penelope's door only to find the room empty. Meanwhile, Penelope was already at the river with Emma. Emma was still trying to keep up the act, but Penelope saw right through it. It's okay, she said. You can just ask me what you want to know. Stratus doesn't have seasons, so there's no such thing as a tide washing out a bridge. That was a lie, wasn't it? Emma dropped the pretense. You're not from here, are you? What are you doing here? I'm trying to find a way to break the curse on my mother, Penelope replied. Ever since she left this place, the curse has been eating away at her life. So you just need to save your mother, right? One person? Emma asked. No, Penelope said. I want to make time move again. That's the mission my mother was supposed to complete. A dark smile spread across Emma's face. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are a natural part of life, Penelope tried to explain. Stopping time is a form of suffering for most people. I don't want to hear it, Emma screamed. I promise I'll find a way to cure your father's illness, Penelope pleaded. And what if you can't? Emma pressed. Are you going to sacrifice someone else's important person just to save your own? She stepped closer to Penelope. I understand you. If I were in your position, I'd probably do the same thing. She touched her chest. People can be kind to others, but there's a limit, isn't there? No, that's not true. When it comes to your own interests versus someone else's, it's only human to make a selfish choice. Emma continued. How could I blame you? So, you won't blame me either, right? Emma pulled out a dagger and lunged at Penelope. Emma, calm down! Penelope cried, trying to fight her off. But Emma wasn't listening. Shut up! This wasn't working. Penelope remembered what Callisto had said. Divine power could be used for offense. I'll just have to use my power to knock her out. I hope I can control the force. A ball of divine power began to form in Penelope's palm. But as she fired, the blast just grazed Emma's shoulder. She had missed. And in that moment, Emma's dagger plunged into her stomach. With a splash, Penelope fell into the river and sank. Emma clutched her injured shoulder, watching Penelope disappear beneath the water. I didn't know she could use magic. Back at Emma's house, Clare felt a sudden sense of dread. She ran outside, but as she opened the door, she was met by a group of soldiers. We've received a report, one of them barked. Outsiders, you're coming with us. You can make your explanations back in the city? Seeing the situation was bad, Clare shoved the guard's hand away and yelled back into the house, Callisto, Derek, run! Callisto, who had been writing something, was unceremoniously grabbed and dragged out by Clare. The three of them were now surrounded. From the crest on their shields, they could tell these were the personal guards of the Stratus main family. They realized someone had figured out their plan and reported them to Hines' faction. Callisto calmly straightened his clothes. And Penelope? If we go looking for her now, we'll just give away her position, Clare snapped. Derek drew his sword. Looks like we'll have to fight our way out. Do you need a different weapon? No, this dagger works for me, Clare replied. They exchanged a look, then charged in opposite directions. A whirlwind of blades and fury, the guards were sent flying. Callisto watched from the side, looking completely relaxed. They're so reliable. It looks like I won't even have to lift a finger. Derek, finished with his side, shot him a glare. Just admit you're useless. You should try saying, Lord Clare, save me sometime, Clare teased. All right, you two are amazing, Callisto conceded. Just then, a golden light snaked up from the ground and wrapped around Derek's leg. Callisto's eyes narrowed, and he unleashed a blast of purple lightning, shattering the golden light just in time. Derek, who hadn't even realized what was happening, was safe. Those men were just a distraction, Callisto said grimly. They've already set up a containment spell around this area. We've been played. A voice echoed through the air. Astrological magic? You must be from the royal family. The newcomer was Hines, the leader of the pro-time stop faction. Which one of you, he continued, is Cecilia's child that Kate took in? Hearing this, Derek charged, his sword aimed at Hines. But Hines dodged easily, grabbing Derek's wrist and delivering a swift kick that sent him flying. Hines sneered. Such an unpleasant face. A child who didn't inherit Cecilia's magical source is worthless. He then added coldly, You're not hiding anything from me, are you? Meanwhile, in a beautiful, otherworldly place filled with blooming flowers and twinkling stars, the submerged Penelope lay in a field of blossoms as if she had entered a new world. Penelope was still unconscious at the bottom of the river, as a heavy rain began to fall. With a gasp, Penelope's eyes shot open. A strange maid was leaning over her. Lady Penelope, it's time. We must prepare to leave. They were in a pavilion, and a gray rain was falling outside. Prepare for what? Where are we going? Penelope asked, confused. The maid looked at her with pity, tears welling in her eyes. For the Duchess's funeral, of course. Penelope was horrified. She found herself at the funeral surrounded by mourners. Her mother, Cecilia, lay peacefully among a sea of white flowers. Penelope saw her brother Derek and reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Please don't talk to me right now. Penelope's hand hung in the air. She didn't understand what was happening. The priest began the eulogy. May the goddess grant her peace. Death is not the end of life. Her soul will be with us always. With a final thud, the coffin was sealed. Penelope stood before her mother's grave for a long, long time. She came back to visit every day for days, then years, until she was a grown woman. One day, a figure appeared before her. Who are you? She asked. At the bottom of the river, black vines wrapped themselves around Penelope's body as the voice continued to call her name. Splash! Cecilia, in a fit of emotion, plunged her hands into the pool of water. Penelope's image in the water began to waver. Duke Alger tried to calm her. Cecilia, calm down. We can't be sure this isn't just an illusion. I'm her mother, she cried. I know her better than anyone. The Duchess's voice was filled with self-reproach. My children have deceived me. They were in danger, right under my nose, and I had no idea. The maids nearby were stunned. Cecilia continued to stare into the water. Penelope, why did she go there? The Duke pointed at the pool. Where did this come from? Who sent it? A guard explained that he had found a vial of potion and a note in the middle of the hall that morning. The note said it was a gift for the Duchess, and that if she put a drop into water, she could see what was happening to Penelope. The maids whispered among themselves. It must be illusion magic. It can record what the caster sees. Does that mean it was sent by the kidnappers? Suddenly, Cecilia turned and ran. Wait, where are you going? The Duke called after her. To save my child, of course, she yelled back. The Duke grabbed her arm. Calm down. We don't even know if this vision is real. And even if it is, the only reason they would show it to you is to provoke you into doing something reckless. And what if it is? She retorted. They are the children I gave up everything for. Her face was set with a steely resolve. I will not let anything happen to them. In a Stratus prison cell, Clare was pacing restlessly. Can you stop that? Callisto complained. You're making me dizzy. Miss Penelope is missing. How can you be so calm? Clare snapped. So you think she'd be better off locked in here with us? Callisto shot back. Hines's men searched the entire estate and couldn't find her. I'm worried she's in danger. I, for one, think she's not so easily defeated, Callisto said calmly. Besides, you and I were locked up together, while Derek, who has Stratus blood, was taken to the basement alone. If they brought him here, his situation would likely be much worse. So stop worrying. It's rare that we get a chance to be alone. Let's talk about something we normally can't. Talk about what? Clare asked, surprised. Do you know Altina? Callisto asked. In the basement, Hines cut his own palm, letting his blood drip onto a golden magic circle. Derek was forced to his knees on the circle, and his hand was cut as well, his blood mingling with Hines's. The circle glowed faintly, then he was thrown to the ground. It's not working, Hines said. His blood isn't enough to open the portal. A guard asked, so we still need to find the other girl from the reports? What if she never came? Impossible, Hines said. If she said it, it must be true. He turned to Derek. I hear you have a sister, don't you? He grabbed Derek by the neck. What a coincidence. So do I. I suggest you give up any ideas of sacrificing yourself to protect her. They won't appreciate it. 10 years of your devotion won't stand up to a few sweet words from some man from the outside. Tell me where the girl is, and it will be much easier for you. Derek just smiled. That disobedient, troublemaking brat? You can have her. You think I wanted to be her brother? Hines let him go and turned to leave. You talk a big game now, but don't come crying to me when she's been spirited away by some man you've never met. You think I'm like you? Derek retorted. He then froze. Wait, so you cried when Mom left, didn't you? The question hung in the air, and Hines's expression shifted. Did I? The words echoed in his mind. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. Oh, great God, he roared. Grant me the power to destroy everything. Two of his men quickly grabbed him. Down! If you do that, we'll all die! Derek, meanwhile, was sticking his tongue out playfully. Hines finally calmed down, leaning on a chair for support. He turned back to Derek. I'll give you one last chance. Where is the girl? His two men were whispering to each other. He's just pretending he didn't hear anything. The other one snickered, earning them both a furious beating. After that, Hines continued his interrogation. I need you to understand this isn't just about you. The fate of hundreds of thousands of people is at stake. What does that portal do? Derek asked. It brings back those who have left, Hines replied. Derek was shocked. The people of Stratus who leave the territory are branded as traitors to the god and afflicted with a curse, Hines explained. But even in the face of death, many still wish to experience the outside world, to feel the passage of time. As the guardian of the border, Kate has seen too many people like your mother. After Cecilia left, she sealed the border. The portal is the only way we can find those who are still alive. If not even death can stop them from leaving, why are you wasting your time? Derek asked. All of Stratus is one, Hines said. The selfish actions of a few cause the ones who remain to suffer the consequences. As twins from the moment we were born, we were destined to sacrifice everything to protect this place. With that, Hines left the basement. A voice spoke from the shadows. Is it really okay to hide the truth from him like this? Why not tell him that the time in Stratus hasn't disappeared? It was the nun, Teresa. She floated closer to Hines. But rather, it's being offered up as a sacrifice, consumed by the new goddess of time. More and more people are taking their own lives, unable to bear the time stop. Once we can no longer provide enough offerings, she may demand the souls of our people next. The only way out now is to open the portal and bring in others from the outside to satisfy that god's endless hunger for power. And you think if I told him that, he would agree? Hines asked. Why not? Teresa said, drifting through the air. Perhaps he would be just like you, willing to sacrifice himself and his own sister for the sake of people he's never met. With that, Teresa's dark, demonic form was revealed. A murderous look flashed in Hines's eyes. Teresa just laughed and floated away. Don't be so tense. I'll make your wish come true. You and she will be reunited soon. Power, duty, responsibility. In the end, they will all make you bow to the darkness. Elsewhere, a little girl asked the grandfather who had raised her where her mother was. Your mother is working hard in the city so that we can have a better life, he told her. The little girl had never known her parents. Loneliness and judgment were all she had ever known. So, at the age of 6, she decided to go to the city and find her mother herself. She went to the police with a photograph, and things went much more smoothly than she expected. Then she went to a television station, and soon reporters and cameras surrounded her, all wanting to help a little girl's dream come true. After much effort, they finally found her mother. But the moment the little girl saw her, she knew she had made a terrible mistake. At a kindergarten, a group of children were throwing paper balls at a little girl, chanting, "Weirdo! Freak!" A teacher rushed over to stop them. "You can't do that!" The children just laughed and ran away. The little girl just kept drawing. The other teachers looked on with pity. What should we do? Should we call her parents? One asked. I wouldn't, another replied. You know what her family situation is like. I heard she went to the TV station herself. Oh my god, I would have lost my mind. You can't really blame her mother in this situation. Cold look in her mother's eyes was something she would never forget. A hand covered her own. It's okay, forget about all that. The dark goddess, with her large black wings, held the girl close. I will create a world where everyone loves you, she whispered. Because that's what we promised, remember? It was all because of a drawing the little girl had made. A picture of the goddess of light and the goddess of darkness holding her hands, playing happily together. Back in the present, the unconscious Penelope let out a small groan. She felt a sharp pain and her eyes shot open. She was surrounded by black vines. Where am I? She wondered, remembering only being pushed. She realized the vines were feeding on her blood. The sky above was a strange, perpetual night, likely some kind of magical illusion. It felt deeply unsettling. She started looking for a way out, but only ended up back where she started. An idea came to her. She cut her own wrist and a drop of blood fell to the ground. As she expected, the vines smelled the blood and lunged towards her. She quickly dodged out of the way. I hope these vines will lead me out of here. It's my only shot. Sure enough, a short while later, she saw a patch of bright sky. Just then, a hand reached out to her. Penelope cried out. Penelope, it's me, a voice said. Penelope took the hand. Mother! Back in the prison cell, Callisto was asking Clare, do you know Alina? He then seemed to lose interest. Never mind, forget I asked. But Clare replied, of course. She is the all-powerful goddess. She is the one who showed me the right path. Callisto was taken aback. Clare's entire demeanor had changed. What did she tell you? He asked. Clare's eyes were wide and intense. She told me the truth of this world. The fact that I was born for Miss Penelope's sake. What are you talking about? Callisto asked, shocked. Do you know why you're a prince? Clare continued. Callisto was even more stunned. To fulfill your duty as a king for the sake of this country and its people? She asked, then burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, ridiculous. The only reason you were programmed to be a king is because young girls have a naive fascination with the idea of a prince. That's it. Callisto was speechless, repeating the words duty as a king under his breath. Who do you think gave you life? Clare pressed on. Making a deal with the royal family after they gained self-awareness was a mistake. That's why I exist. To love her, to protect her, to see her as the only thing that matters in life. That is the duty of everyone born into this world. No matter what, I will keep the promise I made back then, even if it means she forgets everything. Who are you? Callisto demanded. Just then, with a thud, the door was thrown open and a trussed-up figure was tossed inside. Derek! Clare cried out. Callisto was about to press Clare for more answers. Wait, Clare, what you just said? Clare looked at him confused. Did I say something? Callisto sighed in frustration. From the floor, Derek grumbled, sorry to interrupt, but could someone give me a hand? Callisto untied him. Did you find out anything new? Clare asked. Hines tried to get us on his side, Derek said. But I think it's a trap, so I haven't agreed to anything yet. So you learned nothing? Clare said, disappointed. Not exactly, Derek replied. I didn't get anything out of Hines, but I ran into one of Kate's spies. He said Kate is already gathering troops to break us out by force. She's probably been waiting for an excuse to mobilize her army for a long time, Callisto said. That's not surprising. No, that's not the point, Derek said. The spy said that on the day Kate started gathering her troops, she met up with someone unexpected. Meanwhile, Penelope was embracing her mother. Penelope, I'm so glad you're okay. I was so worried. You can leave the rest to me now. But with a boom, there was a flash of light and a sickening drip, drip sound. Half of her mother's right arm was gone. You're much smarter than I thought, she said, her voice different. You, Penelope demanded. You came all this way to see me, didn't you? Her mother replied. Then her form began to dissolve. In a flash of light, a young girl with white wings appeared. The goddess of time you've been looking for, she said, pointing to herself. In the prison cell, Callisto was surprised to hear that Duke Alger and Duchess Cecilia had arrived. Derek explained that someone must have told them about Penelope's disappearance. He was worried. Hines wanted to capture Penelope because her magical source could activate the portal in the dungeon. If he found out her mother had returned, he might switch his target. So what do we do? Clare asked. First, we have to get out of here and find Penelope as soon as possible, Derek said. I'm worried about her. Wait, Callisto said. Did you just say Penelope's blood can activate the portal? Meanwhile, the goddess of time was hovering in the air, twirling a lock of Penelope's hair. A divine maiden, just as Alina said. Such a beautiful magical source. It would be a shame if it didn't become mine. As she spoke, the hair in her hand began to glow blue. Penelope threw a punch, and the goddess leaped back to dodge. She's trying to steal my magic, Penelope realized. The goddess licked her fingers. I was hoping to take it while your guard was down, but since you figured it out, I guess we'll have to do this the hard way. She attacked, and a blinding blue light shot towards Penelope, who barely managed to dodge. A series of blue magic circles then filled the air. "Then I'll just have to take it by force," the goddess sneered. She pointed at Penelope, and the magic circles shot towards her. Penelope dodged frantically, but there were too many. "This is bad." With a series of explosions, Penelope disappeared from view. The goddess laughed. "Oh dear, did I kill her by accident?" "Alina will be angry, but it doesn't matter. Soon we'll be equals." Suddenly, a golden beam of light shot out from the dust cloud and hit the unsuspecting goddess, knocking her to the ground. "I've been wondering," Penelope's voice rang out, "why a god would place such a curse on the land she's supposed to protect. It might get you a lot of followers in the short term, but it's not a sustainable plan. But what you just said confirmed it for me. You're not a full god yet, are you?" Penelope emerged from the dust, wounded but determined, a golden light emanating from her arm. "That's why you're so desperate for faith and a powerful magical source to strengthen yourself. It seems that even with only a fraction of the power Ernest gave me, it's still enough to deal with you, isn't it?" The goddess struggled to her feet. "You little brat! You're asking for it!" More blue magic circles filled the air. Seeing this, Penelope began to gather golden light in her own arm. "I have to risk it." The blue and gold magic clashed with a deafening roar. In the end, Penelope was no match and was thrown to the ground. "It seems that blessing, whoever gave it to you, could only block one attack," the goddess said, stepping on Penelope's hand. "Don't worry, this will be over soon." She raised her arm, a cruel smile on her face. A good woman knows how to finish the job. Just as the goddess of time was about to deliver the final blow, a memory flashed in Penelope's mind. Fortune teller was speaking to her. "To forge a new portal from scratch will require at least a third of your blood. If the portal fails to open, you could die from blood loss." An unknown girl replied, "It doesn't matter." She pulled back her hood, revealing Penelope's face. "I have nothing left to lose." Lying on the ground, Penelope's eyes snapped open. "A third of my blood, at least." "What? Any last words?" the goddess asked, raising a magical spear. Suddenly, Penelope thrust her own hand up, aiming for the sharp point of the spear. The goddess was surprised, but then she just flicked the spear, and a spray of blood flew through the air. She scoffed, "Are you trying to kill yourself?" Penelope looked up at her. "We'll see about that." With a hum, a golden magic circle appeared in the sky, and a brilliant golden light erupted from Penelope's body, so bright that even the goddess couldn't look at it. With a massive boom, the goddess was thrown back. When the light faded, Penelope was gone. Black vines shot out from the ground and wrapped around the goddess's body. "Penelope Eckhart," she screamed in rage. "I will make you pay for this." In the real world, a heart monitor beeped erratically. Doctors and nurses rushed around, trying to save the patient. "It's no use, her blood pressure is critical. If she doesn't wake up within 10 days, the chances of her ever waking up are slim. It's been half a year now. Maybe we should consider euthanasia?" "Who's talking?" Penelope's eyes slowly opened. She sat up and saw the warm sunlight streaming through the window. With a clatter, a cup fell to the floor. Her mother, Cecilia, was standing in the doorway. She rushed over and hugged Penelope tightly. "You're awake! God!" Penelope leaned into her mother's embrace. This time, it was real. "Mom? How did you get here?" "We heard you were in trouble and came as fast as we could," her mother said. "Thank the gods you're safe." "I'm not so sure she has only the gods to thank for her survival," a voice said. It was Kate, holding her arrow. She walked over to the bed. "Sorry to interrupt, but I'd like Miss Penelope to explain something to me." With that, she fired an arrow at Penelope. Penelope raised her hand, and a shield of light appeared, blocking the arrow. "A normal human can't recover from a near-death state in just 3 days," Kate said. Her eyes narrowed. "So who or what are you?" "What are you talking about?" Penelope asked, her face dark. "Move," Kate warned, pressing her arrow to Penelope's throat. Cecilia gasped. "You saw her too," Kate said to Cecilia. "She had lost nearly half her blood, had multiple fractures. She was on the brink of death. Before we could even start treating her, she began to heal at an astonishing rate. Even for a divine maiden, that power is too strange. I've heard that the goddess of time, Kirana, is a master of disguise. So, with all due respect to you, Cecilia, until she can prove her identity, I can't let her near you." Penelope was speechless. "Have you been drinking again? You reek of alcohol." Kate was instantly flustered. "No, that's just the smell of medicinal wine." "A mess," Penelope said, pressing her advantage. "You still owe the tavern keeper 20 gold coins, don't you? Oh, and last time you were drunk, you let it slip that you were the one who trampled the old man's flowers at the end of the street, and you blamed it on Mom." Kate was mortified. "Am I Penelope enough for you now?" Penelope asked. Her mother apologized. I'm sorry, Penelope. It's okay, Penelope said. She was right to be cautious. You've met the goddess of time, haven't you? Kate asked. Yes, Penelope replied, remembering what had happened. She's a terrible person. Why would you ever worship someone like that? Kate sighed. It's not like we had a choice. In the beginning, there were only two main gods on the continent, light and darkness. That's why the Devonshire family, who worship the light, rule over the Eckhart family, who worship war. Before the time stop, Stratus didn't worship any one god, but rather time itself. The goddess of time only took human form after the goddess of light disappeared. We don't know what the connection is, but it's clear she's desperate for power, trying to replace Ernest as the next main god. Wait, Penelope interrupted. The goddess of light disappeared. You were too young to know, Kate said. The Empire hasn't received an oracle from the goddess in over 100 years, but since she was able to bless you recently, I assume nothing too serious has happened to her. Hearing this, Penelope realized something was wrong. This was different from the game. As far as she could remember, the main story never mentioned the goddess of light disappearing. In fact, she played a huge role as a guide for the heroine, Clare, in the early parts of the game. Penelope had assumed she hadn't met her yet because the time wasn't right, but the divine power she had was given to her directly by Jean, the developer. We are now completely opposed to Kirana, Kate said suddenly. From now on, we have only two choices: kill a god or die. The moment I decided to come back, I was prepared for that, Cecilia said, stroking Penelope's face. Don't you worry about any of this. Your only job right now is to rest and get better. Did father come with you? Penelope asked. On the other side of Stratus, a guard was rushing to report to Hines. Sir Hines, someone has broken into the dungeon and is trying to stage a jailbreak. We've sent reinforcements, but… Did Kate finally make her move? Hines asked. No, sir, it's just one man, the ruthless Duke Eckhart. Meanwhile, in a beautiful garden, an angry voice was destroying everything in sight. Damn it! Damn it! Magical blasts rained down on the flowers. Kirana, a voice said calmly, throwing a tantrum in someone else's home is not a very becoming quality. What does it matter? Kirana retorted. This is your sister's domain, isn't it? And who knows where she's gone? That's not necessarily true, the dark goddess said, sipping her tea. She and I have always been two sides of the same coin. Kirana laughed. Is that so? I thought you wanted all the power for yourself and you secretly did away with her. The dark goddess's expression hardened. I can't just let that comment slide. Kirana turned away dismissively and went back to destroying the garden. Why did you call me here? Once you're done, I have a girl to kill, one who dared to make a fool of me. As your senior, the dark goddess said, let me give you a piece of advice so you can't say I didn't warn you. Don't mess with people you shouldn't mess with. Kirana was even more dismissive. Hilarious, who is she and who am I? Altina, even your jokes have limits. Don't be so angry, Altina said, floating closer to Kirana. I brought you here to tell you some good news. You've always wanted to be a main god, haven't you? She whispered in Kirana's ear. No matter how strong a mortal's magic is, they are still just a mortal. How long will it take you to reach your goal by absorbing their power? But if you were to obtain the divinity of another demigod, well, that would be a different story entirely. In the prison, guards were on high alert. Callisto, Clare, and Derek were taking the opportunity to escape. Are you sure it's okay not to help him? Clare asked, worried. It's fine, Callisto said. You'd only get in his way. Outside the prison, Duke Alger was a whirlwind of destruction, cutting down guards left and right. They were no match for him. Sir Hines, a guard reported. Reinforcements will be here soon. But Hines stopped him. Tell them to stand down. It's useless. It will only lead to more unnecessary casualties. He is the ruthless Duke Eckhart, the man who inherited the power of the god of war. The escaping trio suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. Appearing before them was the goddess of time, Kirana, holding a spear and smiling. Run! Callisto yelled. But it was too late. With a thud, two figures fell beside Derek. It was Callisto and Clare. Derek froze in terror. Kirana appeared before him. Sorry about this, little boy, she said with a wicked smile. Would you mind being my hostage? As a child, Derek had always trained relentlessly, waking even before the maids to practice in the training grounds. After all, it's not easy to follow in the footsteps of a father like that. Like all great empires that had risen and fallen, his had once been plagued by war. In the face of endless conflict, people began to question the very meaning of justice. In the end, the goddess of light and the goddess of darkness joined forces to end the war. The god of war fell, and the empire entered an era of peace that lasted for centuries. And after the war, the family entrusted by the goddesses to protect the fallen god's divinity was the Crimson Eckhart family. Cruel, ruthless, these were the words people often used to describe the Eckharts. But what his father had taught him was to use that power to protect what was important. His mother always said that his father was just shy and bad with words. But to Derek, he was a hero. Whenever it was time for a haircut, Derek would hide and the maids could do nothing about it. "Young master, please cooperate. The other children will laugh at you for having such long hair." But he would just stay hidden under the table. Only when his mother came would he emerge, hiding in her arms. When she asked why he didn't want to cut his hair, he would blush and say it was because he wanted to be like his father. He had always awkwardly imitated his father, wanting to have the same strength. And that had never changed. He had always trained diligently, hoping that one day he could be of some help to him. That was how it was supposed to be. But now he was being held captive by the goddess of time, floating in the air. "Who's there?" the Stratus guards shouted. But Hines stopped them. "Kneel," he commanded. Before the guards could understand why, Hines was already on his knees. "Don't say a word! The goddess has descended!" The goddess of time, Kirana, landed on the ground, dragging a red-haired Derek behind her. She walked up to Duke Alger. "So you are the current head of the Eckhart family. To be able to wield the power of the god of war as a mortal? Impressive." A blast of magic shot past the Duke's face, carving a massive trench in the ground. A little overconfident, she threw Derek to the ground. "As you can see, I'm here to make a deal. You give me the god of war's divinity, and I'll give you back your son." She smiled that wicked smile again. "Fair, isn't it?" Duke Alger remained silent. "Do you need some time to think? I'm not very patient." "No need," a voice said. Derek suddenly shot up from the ground and struck Kirana. She dodged in surprise, and in that moment, the Duke unleashed a blast of magic that hit her square in the chest. "It seems you don't care if your son lives or dies," she said, clutching her injured shoulder. Father and son stood together. "No, we just meant it's not necessary." Elsewhere, a carriage was speeding along, carrying Penelope and her mother, Cecilia. "It's okay," her mother said, holding her hand. "As long as he's here, there won't be a problem." Penelope looked at her mother and felt a sense of reassurance. At least for now, he's okay. The goddess of time, Kirana, had two ways of gaining power: through the faith of the oppressed citizens of Stratus, and by collecting the life force of traitors through her curse. Her mother, Cecilia, was one of her victims. The fact that Kirana wanted her mother's magical source so badly meant that her parents' meeting was likely no coincidence. But in the game, even after her mother's death, Stratus didn't immediately fall into chaos. That meant that the ritual to become a full god wouldn't be complete until the start of the game's main story, 10 years from now. As long as she remains a demigod, if we all work together, we might have a chance. There's still time. I have a strange feeling of unease. On the battlefield in Stratus, buildings were collapsing from the force of the battle between Kirana and the Eckharts. Kirana was on the defensive, constantly dodging their attacks, unable to find an opening. Suddenly, she looked at Derek, who was standing on the ground with his sword raised, and a wicked smile spread across her face. A single black feather floated into the air and formed a magic circle above his head. But just as suddenly, the circle shattered and the fragments rained down in front of his eyes. His own eyes went blank. A splitting headache hit him, and he felt dizzy. "Derek, are you all right?" his father asked. "I'm fine," he said, leaning on his sword for support. "Go after her." But Kirana was already gone. "It seems she's left," the Duke said, going to help his son. "We need to find a doctor." As he reached for him, Derek suddenly moved, plunging his sword into his own father's body. The Duke coughed up blood. "In the domain of the Dark Goddess," her voice echoed. "They're almost all here. Clare, the one who was reborn. Callisto, the one who will sacrifice. Derek, the one who wants to protect. Alger, the one who failed to protect. Kirana, the one who must be defeated. They will all be witnesses to her ascension to godhood." Cecilia was holding him. "I'm sorry," Alger whispered. "I didn't expect her to do that. Derek, that child has a strong sense of responsibility. You'll have to help him through this." "Don't talk," she sobbed. "You're seriously hurt." "But we haven't had a proper conversation in so long," he continued. "I often wonder, if I couldn't free you from the curse, was it a mistake to bring you away from here?" He gently stroked her face. "Do you regret it?" "No," she said, wiping away her tears. "My time only started moving because of you." She remembered the day she left Stratus. Snow was falling, and he had led her by the hand through the white landscape. She could still hear the crunch of the snow under their feet. "Come inside," he had said. "You'll catch a cold." But she, who had never seen snow before, didn't want to go in. She stood in the falling snow, catching the flakes in her hands, feeling their cold touch. No matter the outcome, no matter the price, that was the most beautiful time of my life. In the prison, Kate and her guards had found and rescued Penelope and the others. Elsewhere in Stratus, a guard was reporting to Hines. "Sir Hines, we have a huge problem." The monsters in the fogwood have been agitated by something and have left their territory. They're attacking the citizens. Hines sighed. He knew this would happen. The goddess of time must have absorbed the god of war's divinity, disrupting the magical balance of Stratus. Is it a divine punishment? Another guard asked nervously. Will it only affect the rebels? We've always been on the goddess's side. It shouldn't have anything to do with us, right? Fool, Hines roared. Is this the time for that? Regardless of our loyalties, the people who live here are all citizens of Stratus. Take up your swords and do what a soldier is meant to do. Back on the battlefield, Derek was kneeling beside his father's body, completely unresponsive. A giant monster loomed behind him, but he didn't move. A figure shot past him, and with a flash of her dagger, the monster was cut down. It was Clare. She glanced at the catatonic Derek. Are you just going to sit there and watch? She screamed. With a thwack, a sword was thrown into the ground beside him. It was Prince Callisto. Are you going to mope around? He yelled. The people in danger right now are your mother's people, and the blood of the god of war flows in your veins. This isn't over. You can't fall apart before Miss Penelope gets back. Now pick up this sword. This is a letter, written by the mother, Cecilia. To my dearest Penelope on her 18th birthday, let me tell you a story. I was born in a place on the Empire's border called Stratus. There, the seasons were an eternal spring, and the days never ended. But to me, who had grown up there, it was nothing special. The first time I saw him, he had just survived a brutal fight. He was covered in wounds and bleeding badly. I don't know how he managed to break through the Stratus family's barrier and enter our territory. The rules said that if an outsider was found, the elders should be notified immediately. But perhaps it was my curiosity about the outside world that made me, against my better judgment, decide to keep him hidden. His name was Alger Eckhart, and he had been a knight for only a year. He told me his squad had been ambushed by a horde of beasts during a retreat, and he was the only survivor. Things like that happened every day. One person's peace was always bought with another's sacrifice. At the time, I didn't really understand the concept of death. I just knew instinctively that it was a very sad thing. But he didn't see it that way. He believed that one should cherish life because of the fear of death, that the living inherit the will of the dead, and that this cycle is what allows human civilization to continue. The unchanging perfection of Stratus, he said, had lost all possibility of a future. He didn't like it there. He told me that beyond the forest, there were mountains, and beyond the mountains, there was the sea. That flowers bloomed in the summer, withered in the fall, and grew again in the spring, over and over again. I was amazed by the world he described, just as he was amazed that I had never seen snow. Like in all the fantasy romance novels, I followed him out without a second thought. The world outside wasn't always beautiful, but that's what made it real. Before long, we fell in love. He proposed to me, and we had our own family and 2 lovely children. Being a mother wasn't easy, especially when I realized I might not be able to watch you grow up. Planning for all your future milestones became a daunting task. Your birthday presents every year, the staff and spellbooks for when you started school. The dress for your coming-of-age ceremony. I hope they won't be too out of style by then. According to Stratus tradition, a mother gives her daughter a flower crown on her wedding day. These flowers, which never wilt, symbolize eternal love. But it's very difficult to grow them in the outside world. I hope I can hold on long enough to see it finished. I never regretted running away with him in that snowy season. I was once trapped in a cage, never knowing the changing of the seasons, let alone life and death. Looking back now, the time I spent with him seems to have given me a lifetime's worth of a normal person's joys and sorrows. No matter the price, having you 2 was the most beautiful thing I have ever done. So it's okay. Because life is so brilliant, there is no need to fear death. You are my most precious daughter, and the proof that I have lived. Please live with your head held high. Penelope, shrouded in a golden light, arrived in the domain of the goddess of time, Kirana. Kirana! She roared. Get out here! Well, look what we have here, Kirana's voice echoed. She was sitting on a tree branch, playing with a colorful pendant. If you're here to congratulate the birth of a new god, your attitude is a little arrogant, don't you think? Give me back the god of war's divinity, Penelope demanded. Such a shame, Kirana said nonchalantly. It's too late. Penelope laughed. We'll see about that. The divinity on your chest hasn't fully merged yet, has it? I'll rip it out, along with your heart. Kirana was furious. You little brat, you're asking for it. She threw a series of magic circles at Penelope. Penelope charged forward, trying to block them. With a series of explosions, Kirana laughed. You were talking so big a moment ago, she sneered, looking at the tattered pieces of Penelope's clothes on the ground. But in the face of absolute power, you're too scared to even move? That's the difference between an ant and a god. Before she could finish, Penelope appeared behind her, swinging her sword. With a clang, the blade struck the divinity on Kirana's chest. With a spray of blood, Kirana was sent flying. Penelope landed gracefully, dust swirling around her. This is infinite regeneration? Kirana thought, stunned. This brat. She has direct access to Ernest's power. And after that attack, her magic has gotten even stronger. She's absorbing my attacks. If I can't kill her in one blow, she'll just get stronger. I can't drag this out. I have to finish her in one go. After that, she formed a magical spear in her hand. Penelope shot up into the air towards Kirana. She broke through layer after layer of defenses, her hand reaching for the divinity on Kirana's chest. But in the end, she couldn't withstand Kirana's next attack, and was slammed back to the ground, pierced by multiple magical spears. But with a flash of golden light, she was healed again. She vaguely remembered her last near-death experience, how it seemed to have triggered some kind of protective mechanism. She had gambled that as long as she didn't take a fatal blow, she could find a chance to get the divinity back. But why was the pain starting to feel numb while her mind was becoming clearer? Anger, sadness, joy. With each attack and each regeneration, she could feel something being stripped away from her. If she could just cast off all her emotions like this, would the pain finally go away? A giant golden sword materialized in Penelope's hands, and she swung it at Kirana. With a pained cry, Kirana fell to the ground, clutching her chest. Damn it, she gasped. The power hasn't fully merged yet, but I have no choice. She raised her hand towards Penelope, and Penelope raised her sword. With a massive boom and a blinding flash of light, Kirana felt her strength drain away. Is she dead? To think she could push me this far? Suddenly, a slow, deliberate clap echoed through the air. What are you doing here? Kirana asked, looking up. The newcomer was the dark goddess, Alina, with her black wings. I came to see you one last time, she said. In an instant, Kirana was bound by countless chains and hoisted into the air. What? What did you do? She screamed. I didn't do anything, Alina said calmly. Impossible, we're equals. You have no right to judge me. Alina tilted her chin up. I warned you, didn't I? Don't mess with people you shouldn't mess with. A virtual, code-like image of Penelope appeared before them. She pointed a finger at Kirana. The goddess's eyes widened in terror. No! She screamed. Before her image flickered and shut down, like a computer being turned off. The world went dark.